I ask Commissioner William Neighbors to have the prayer tonight.
If everybody will bow their heads, please. Dear Lord, thank you so much for all that you continue to do for us. Please be with us tonight as we try to make the best decisions for the citizens of the town of Benson. Please be with those in the community who need you now, those who have recently experienced loss. Please be with our public safety and our troops as they continue to work for us every day to keep us safe. And please continue to bless us and allow us to live as representatives of your love and forgiveness. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Let's stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the two items on the consent agenda.
I made that motion.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Or no. Public comments. Individuals wishing to address the board are asked to provide their name and address for the record and come forward. Individuals wishing to address the board are asked to provide their name and address for the record. Come forward. No one coming forward. We close the individual addressing. I now call on Withers Ravenel. Presentation of wastewater system merger regionalization feasibility study.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to be here. My name is Megan Powell, and I am with Withers Ravenel. This evening, I'm going to present to you the results of a merger regionalization feasibility study grant. Before we get started, this grant is for information only. There is no motion that the board needs to take, so it is, again, for information only, and no action needs to be taken for this evening for this grant. So we'll start off talking about what this grant is. This grant is provided by the state of North Carolina, and it is to study options. This is a 50,000-foot view to look at options for what you could do in terms of merger and regionalization for your sewer system. It was provided by the North Carolina Division of Infrastructure, and it encourages water and wastewater utilities to become more viable and more productive by managing their finances to look at, again, what options could be out there to help them be more sustainable in the future. Our team took a couple of different groups that come together to look at this grant. We took basically our financial teams and our engineering teams coming together to look at a couple of options to see how you could partner with surrounding entities. We pulled together the grant application, which was written a couple years ago now, audits, budgets, capital improvement plans, any sort of existing interconnections, and looked at the region as a whole to see where we could move forward. In this case, it made the most sense to look at Johnson County as the partner identified. So we came up with 3 options, and we'll call them A, B, and C, and I'll go over them in detail. Option A is a status quo with repairs to your wastewater treatment plant. Option B is repair to the wastewater treatment plant and to send reclaimed water to a non-educational agricultural facility. And option C is to expand your plant with a financial contribution from Johnson County. So again, we looked at option A because we have to acknowledge the fact that, you know, even if you would want to move forward, there's a lot of hurdles that would have to be overcome to do any sort of merger or regionalization. We also acknowledge that there are needed upgrades to your wastewater treatment plant. So in option A, we looked at those needed upgrades only for this option. To be able to financially pay for these options, you would need revenue increases each year of the 5 years of our study program to be able to pay the debt service to pay for this project. And it would be 60% in the first year and 8 years the following years, 8 years afterwards. This wastewater treatment plant upgrade is estimated to be $43 million, and it is $35 million for the plant and $8 million for the discharge to Mingo Swamp. Option B, again, includes the option or the repairs from option A, and it sends reclaimed water to a non-educational agricultural use near Dunn. The line to pay for that reclaimed water to go to the non-educational agricultural use would be paid for by that end user, and if this option were to be explored, it could assist with interbasin transfer rules that the state have, which would allow you to potentially receive water from other areas for growth needs in the future. We didn't specifically look at water since this is a wastewater study, but by sending reclaimed water across that basin towards Dunn, it would allow potential water to be purchased or received from that area in the future. For this option, you would again need 60% increases in the first year and then 7% increases in the following years of the study. And option C includes the needed upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant, as well as expansion of the plant to accommodate growth in this region. This option includes a financial contribution from Johnston County. The county would, in this option, purchase 1 million gallons a day of capacity into the upgraded system at $23 million. In this case, because you do have financial assistance coming from an outside entity, your revenue increases would be significantly smaller at 45% in the first year and 5% in the following years, excuse me. So again, this is a very high-level overview of it. I know you were given the actual study as part of your agenda packets that goes into much more detail. But I would encourage you as a board to talk about these options and discuss where you may want to move or may want to go moving forward, and then potentially engage with the partner for discussion. And with that, thank you. And do we have any questions?
Does anyone have any questions?
I might be the only one missing this, but what is the purpose of a non-educational agricultural deal?
Well,
Explain that.
It's just could go in a direction, that direction towards Dunn. And we don't have a specific end user in mind yet, but it would not go to an agricultural, or excuse me, it would go to an agricultural facility, not an educational facility as reclaimed water had gone to in the past. We wanted to be very, very specific that this would be for an agricultural use only.
We used to have a reclaimed tank at South Johnston, and it would like water the baseball fields and the football fields and stuff, and I guess it got some controversy. So we have since that tank is inactive and we don't have the permit anymore. Yeah, that's what she means.
Were you talking about Wake County?
No, sir. The South Johnston, where we used to do reclaimed water at South Johnston.
Yeah, well, Wake County got in trouble with using wastewater for agricultural purposes because it poisoned some of the wells. So we need to keep that in mind when we start talking about using for agriculture. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
We now call Alan Johnson up for his fire department year-end presentation.
Okay, man said this click. Oh, look at there. All right, good evening, Mayor Board. I appreciate the opportunity to come up and speak to y'all tonight and give you a recap on our year end and a couple other things. Get this situated just right. 2023 was a busy year for us. I think y'all get my reports and know that pretty good. So we'll just go ahead and start. So year end, we ended up the year with 1,531 calls for the year. That's up a little over 10% from the year before, and the year before, I mean, it was the most calls we ever run. So we keep going up. I've been trying to leave the 2010 year in there because that was the very first year that we ever run a whole year of first responder calls. And that particular year, we were at 555 calls. So we've gone up, not quite, but almost 1,000 calls in 13 years. So just food for thought on that. Like I say, as you can see, it's just getting busier and busier. Of course, we had COVID year in there, but that was that. This just broke down by month. September, we had 151 calls. That's the most calls we've ever had any month. So, and no call, let's see, in 2022, I think we had 1 month we didn't have 100 calls or more, and that was 99 in August, the best I remember. So, so anyway, that's that 1531. That's again a pretty high number. Going on down through the PowerPoint presentation, 2023. So that was just the calls broke down. 806 medical responder calls, 193 MVAs, dispatch canceled en routes, float service, just right on down to include all the calls. And y'all have heard me say before, if somebody calls 911, they want somebody to go, and if police or EMS don't respond, then they send the fire department. So that's where we're at. So the average daily calls is 4.2 for the year. And then we got it broke down there on the very bottom for shifts, which the 3 shifts are pretty close in their number. So percentages, calls run during the daytime, Monday through Friday. It's about 47% fire, 53% first responder calls, with a 34.3% average for this time frame. And then calls all other times, which is at night and on the weekends. It's still around 47% for fire and 52% first responder. So that's kind of, some places have done a whole lot more first responder than they do fire, but we're not a big part off. We pretty close to the same. So we did break it down, in town versus out of town. 63% of our calls are in town, with 36% out of town. So in town does get, in the city limits, does get the biggest percent of our time on calls. Mutual aid responses, I mean, obviously we can't get by without our mutual aid. So at 179 times we give mutual aid, and then 112 times we requested mutual aid. We are doing deal dispatch on both interstates now. Been doing that now for a little over a year, especially with the widening going on, the construction out there. So that works out well. So again, without our mutual aid, we have to call on them for help, and they call on us for help. Man hours on calls, almost 5,500 man hours on calls during the year. Training, y'all have seen that before in my presentations. A lot of training with, just had over 5,000 hours with everybody together on the training hours. The average response time data, and then just the demographics. We cover 27 square miles, which includes the town of Benson, our banner district in Johnson County, and our banner district in Harnett County. So our average daytime response is 5 minutes, 12 seconds from first dispatch to first unit arriving on the scene. During the weeknights, it's a little longer, 6 minutes, 24 seconds. And average for weekend response is around 6 minutes. Our overall total response from dispatch till units arriving on the scene, 6 minutes and 14 seconds. Next slide, I just kind of done a 3-year comparison, 2021. As you can see during the daytime, the very first line, because we have, for a while now, we've had, staff during the day, usually 4 of us. So, I mean, that number hadn't differentiated much at all because we are there. The weeknights, 2022, it went up. It actually increased from 2022 over 2021. Just my thinkings, the volunteers running so many calls that kind of maybe got burned out, didn't come as much. We did have a right big number of volunteer openings then. In 2023, or the very end, November 2022 is when we started the 24-hour guy, and now he don't make much of a difference on the. Well, he does make a big difference, but on the fire calls, he still has to wait for other people's first responder calls. Most of the time he does go by himself at night. But again, 2023, you can really see how that really improved. Right on down. Overlapping calls, this one always gets me. So 1 out of every 5 calls, we have another call while we're on a call. So that number was at 20%, 20.1%, and then 8-year average of 15%. So again, while we're on a call, we have another call. Weekend before last, I think I sent Kim a couple of texts, but we had like, in about a 30-hour time frame, we had at least four double lapping calls in, like I said, in that 30-hour window. That's just broke down to mutual aid responses if you were interested. 71 calls to Dunn, 44 to Four Oaks, 35 to Meta, and then it goes down pretty much from there on down. Those top 3 are our biggest ones. So again, we requested mutual aid 112 times. Fire inspection, year-end totals, and that's where EG, our part-time fire inspector, where he comes in. He had 168 billable inspections for revenue of a little over $14,000. 22 town inspections done last year, and of course they're no charge. 123 follow-up re-inspections, and that takes a little time when you go to one. You have to turn around and go back to them. I know we've come to you before and talked about a compliance engine, and we'll probably come back before y'all again on that. But that if we were to get that in place, that would help lessen that going back. I hope I can foresee that being a good thing. Pre-plans 418 pre-plans. That means there's 418 businesses that we actually do pre-plans for in our fire district. Plan reviews, Knox boxes, right on down. To throw this one here in there, just so y'all can see, since 2009, the grants that we've been blessed to receive, had a total, not counting the regional grant we done that time, but we've got 1.7 million in grants, and it's pretty much costed us, the fire department, the town, $107,000. So we've been blessed with grants. That's always good to be able to. If it weren't for that, I mean, just think, we got an extra truck, or they paid off a truck. We've gotten air packs. We've gotten just some equipment needs. So that's it. That's a blessing for us there. Debt service, our 2014 engine. So good news on that. Final payment's due this year in June, and then that will be paid off. Annual payment on it is $36,468, and again, it'll be paid off this coming June. So that's good news. Now for the bad news. We got a 33-year-old truck that's got to be replaced. So we get one paid off. We hope to, replace it with another one. So we're in need to replace this apparatus. We've had a couple meetings just trying to figure out what our needs are, what they're going to come to know what we need to replace it with. Right now, there's a 3 to 4 year build time out on any new truck, which seems absurd, but that's a long time, but that's what they're telling us. So again, we're going to continue to evaluate our needs. And a truck like this, we're figuring 1.5 million, which is 3 times what that would have been new. But that's just where they're at today. Or ladder trucks, roughly around 2 million. Again, we just got to look at our needs and see what we need to do, see what our needs are to replace this one with, and then what we can afford. So we'll be back later, but just keep that in mind that we are in need to replace a truck. In the meantime, since we're paying that truck off, we'll try to budget the same payment, just going into a capital plan to have some money to pay down on the new one 3 or 4 years down the road. Here is our revenue breakdown. I just want to go over this a minute too. I like to consider the fire department as self-supportive. The money we bring in is pretty much the money we take out or spend. So this year's budget, I'm not talking about next year's or last year's, the town of Benson, y'all graciously provide us with 12 cents of the town tax. So that makes, and that equals what our Johnson County Banner District is in the Harnett County District. So that sets us for 39% of our budget comes from the town, which, as you saw a while ago, 65% of the calls were in town, so that's the bigger portion, so that's only fair. Our Johnson County Banner tax is 26% of our budget. and you've heard me talk about this in the past, and I'll talk about it just a little bit more in depth in just a minute, but our fire matrix that come from Johnston County general fund this year from tax money is 15% this year. Harnett County fire tax, where we get 12 cents in our 7 square miles of Harnett County that we cover, makes 11% of our funds. And then all other things for this year, from grants we received, fire inspection billing, the motor vehicle accidents billing for that makes up 9%. All right, so here's just a breakdown of the matrix. So the matrix was developed to assist fire departments in additional funding needs. So every department, all 23 departments in Johnson County received extra money this year from the matrix. Nobody received less. In July 2022, Phase 1 was implemented, and there was 5 what we call Tier 1 departments that brought everybody's minimum budget up to $300,000. One department, try not to call no names, their budget in 2021 was $99,000. Our insurance cost is more than $99,000 for us. So it's a good thing for them. And like I said, that was Phase 1. That was to bring those 5 departments up. In 2023, the year we're in now, the budget year we're in now, we were able to do Phase 2. The county commissioners budgeted $4.2 million to fund the entire matrix to allow all 23 fire departments some extra funding. And like I say, that comes up to $4.2 million. That's out of general fund, and that comes from fire tax money. No, that just comes from county money, not fire tax, but it comes from county taxpayer dollars. That's what it is, because they funded it out of general fund. So 2024, Phase 3, is to go to the single county fire tax, which is called the Fire Protection Service District. It's got a lot of people not really understanding it. So after this, I think Tyler's got it in there. I'm going to run through them same slides for that right quick too. But just keep in mind, it's all a process to get to where we need to be. And it's all a good thing. So here's the funding breakdown for the matrix and how we come up with our 15% of our budget. Our ISO rating is a 2. There's a line item in there. The higher you are, the more money you receive for your ISO funding. So we get $40,000 for that. First responder supplement funding, $60,000. Depends on how many first responder calls you run, is how much money you get. So we're $60,000 on that. Extrication funding, we're $10,000. Ag rescue, 3. Just a supplement funding for, there's 10 different categories all into one. And as long as we do all 10 of those things, we get to $25,000. And then we stuck in there a staffing funding, which is pretty much geared to one part-time person. I mean, for $35,000, you know, you're not going to get anybody full-time, but it would give you a part-time person. So all added together, we come up this year with $173,000. We get a little over $14,000 a month from the county since July 1st for this matrix funding. So town budget, because we weren't sure if it was going to happen at our last year's budget, we didn't put it in there. So we come back in July 27th and done a budget amendment. So I just stuck that in there. Y'all have already approved all that. I mean, we're getting the money, everything's good. I just want to stick that part in there. This slide here, in my opinion, says a lot. I kind of put this together just to see where we ranked at. Obviously, Clayton is top. They got 2 stations and 14 people, and these are 24-hour people. These aren't the paid chiefs. They're not the paid any part-time people, any other kind of staff. They're the 24-hour paid people. They run just over 3,300 calls and got 14 people any given day, any given time. Smithfield, number 2, with 7 people. Cleveland, third most calls with 9 people. Northside, which was 2 departments that combined together to make 1, 9 people. They run 1,800 calls, a little better. And then we're 5th. Again, these 9 that's on here, they're the 9 departments in Johnson County that's got 24-hour staff. We come in at 5th. We have our 1 full-time man, 24/7, with a little over 1,500 calls again. And then you get down to 5210, Selma, Wilson Mills, and 4 Oaks. They've all got more people than what we got. 4 Oaks was fortunate enough this past year. We did not get the FEMA Safer Award to hire more people. 4 Oaks did. They had one, so they hired another one per shift. So that's how they've got two. They were with us with just one, a guaranteed driver, guaranteed engineer. But anyway, like I say, it don't show it on this slide. I had it on another one. But our ISO funding, we're a 2. Clayton is a 2. Cleveland is a 2. And Wilson Mills is a 2. There's five ISO Class 2s in the county. 4 of them's on here. One other department is. And then the rest of them are 3s and 4s. So that's, just keep that in mind too. So, and we'll talk about more, the board retreat, whatever, but our personnel needs. So July 1st, 2024, or sooner. I had to throw that in there because it's an immediate need. We'd like to hire 3 more shift engineers. With the matrix money, we feel like we got it covered this year. So if we come up and said, hey, let's do it May 1st, I mean, the money should be there and we'll be fine because we have got the money. We'll get that money again next year. So, like I say, this is definitely a must need come July the 1st. But if we can do it May 1st, that would be even better. But, that's up to y'all.
Alan, a question on this matrix money. We've received 17,000 since June per month.
14.
It goes
14.
into 14. It goes into a fireman fund or general fund?
General fund,
General fund.
budgeted, it's
Okay,
Part of
now, we get the same amount next year?
It's
Or
actually,
it should go up?
yeah, it's going to go up. We're going to lose a little bit on one. We're going to go up on another. So it's going to be,
Okay.
just say, the same 14, 15,000.
So this whole thing was put together for the departments that didn't have any funding that, like you said, their whole budget was $99,000, and that's more than air insurance just for air department.
Yes, sir.
This was put in for
The-
full-time firemen?
Well, whatever that department's need is. It's not for full-time firemen if they don't need full-time firemen. But the goal is within the next year and a half, one, there's 3 departments that don't that don't do first responder. So the goal is for them 3 departments to start doing first responder, and then to get some kind of staffing at every fire department. Not 24-hour staffing, but maybe at Strickland's Crossroads, they just need, one man Monday through Friday. So just to get some kind of supplemental staffing through the week, that is the goal. To start with, out the door. I said to start with out the door, that
Yeah.
was the goal. But this year's kind of a free year because you ain't never done it in the past. You didn't have money to get all your equipment tested like you needed to. So we wanted everybody to get the money to be able to do the things they need to do. And then, we're going to come back in behind it with
But
some.
how were you
some
planning
standards.
on hiring 3 engineers or 3 full-time firemen, 3 more?
Yeah, so
with this?
with this, I mean, this was, like I say, we were really hoping and the FEMA grant would come through, but, that didn't happen. So with this is going to hopefully help assist us with that need.
So those would have to go to school before they could drive the truck?
No, they'll come certified, ready to go, yes, sir.
Alan, I want to stop you. You
Okay.
said you had 4 on shift per day. You've got 1 full-timer. Are you included in that 4?
I am. There's 1 full-timer, myself, and 2 part-timers.
2 part-timers?
Yes, sir.
And then a fire inspector, does he make 5? Does
Yeah,
he
when
run
he's
calls?
here. I try not to count him as the 4, but on the days that he's here, he'll make 5, and if we need him, he is there for calls. He don't make every call by no means, but if he's
He's
needed,
full-time Garner.
yeah.
Okay.
Or if if we're short somebody that day and he's here, obviously he does fill in to make the 4.
I'm just wondering numbers.
Yes, sir.
And maybe it staggers. So a while ago you said 35,000 doesn't pay for 1 part-timer. So do we pay more than 35,000 for our part-time inspector? Because the revenue on that was only 14,000.
Now, inspector, yeah, he'll cost more. The inspector will. But I'm saying as a
So we're not bringing
fireman,
enough revenue in inspections to cover the inspector position? Is
oh,
that-
absolutely not. Not with all the stuff he
they're not all
does.
paying them either.
Yeah. I mean, with everything.
Invoices every month, but-
Yeah, but with everything that he does, the pre-planning, the all the plan reviews, yeah, no, you're not gonna break even on that.
Okay.
Not in the fire department. I'm not speaking for no other part of town now, just in the fire department you won't. You won't break it. I think the,
If you get the full-time individual, do you plan on still going with 2 part-timers per day, or do you plan on going, it looked like 2/3 of your calls was in the evening, which means that's when the part-timers are not here, correct?
2/3 are in the evenings, right? And this is just me talking right this minute now. As many meetings as I'm in, if we can afford it, I would love to keep them for as long as we can. To have the 4 there and maybe take me out of the 4. And the main reason for the 4 is because our SO rating is based on the 4 there per day. But man, I'm going to a lot, I'm going to a lot of meetings.
I just know a lot of Wake County departments that are struggling with this have gone to 12-hour part-time shifts and having them working part-time evening shifts as well, and I didn't
Right.
know if that was an option to help kind of offset some of those nighttime calls.
Yeah. Finding the part-time people is tough, in my opinion. But, we can look at anything. And we are doing things at the station. We got a duty crew now. We just don't have somebody every night. And the hope was to have that to keep the gap, till we can do better.
Okay.
Which I hope that don't go away either, because when we get 2, then we'll keep that, for the 3rd person. It just all depends, the numbers that we had up there a while ago, the response times, what do y'all like to see? Where would you want that number to be? How quick do you want us to get on the scene? That's what all that boils down to.
Well, I thought you had 2 people in the budget this year.
He had 2 vacant positions in the budget this year, they're filled. But we didn't add the 3 because we wanted to see if we were gonna get the SAFER.
The SAFER grant,
Because if you got the SAFER grant, then you would have had to have added 3 more.
yeah. And then that SAFER grant's 3 years, 100% paid, but yeah, we didn't, like I said, we didn't get that. 2025-26 budget, if there's any more questions, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you.
The plan for that, at that point in time, we'll have 6 engineers. We got 1 off, we got somebody to cover it. If you just hire a firefighter today, then they may can't cover it if the engineer's off. So that's my thought on this. When we come up to hire 3 more down the road, we would promote the 3 captains from the 6 engineers. Have a bigger pool to choose from, do it from in-house, and then at that point in time, we'd hire 3 firefighters. But then definitely we'll need a full-time assistant chief, as long as the funds are there. I mean, we know all this is depending on the funds, on what's we know is coming down the line too. And then again, 2028, 29, for the rescue truck, ladder truck, whatever we get, we still got our volunteers, great volunteers, but at that point in time, with the 20% call, the overlapping calls that we run, we may need to hire 2 more people to run that particular truck. And again, that's just like a 5-year range plan. You got to have a plan, right? So if we don't achieve it, we'll try again next year, but we got to have a plan. So, and again, that number 2 right there, we were blessed, and again, without the volunteers, and look, y'all, if y'all read my month report, in the last 12 months, we have put on 10 volunteers, 9, and got 1 more very serious, a really good guy that's coming. So that really excites me, because we hadn't had, I don't know of any other departments put on 10 in a year, so I feel very blessed that people's come out and wants to get on. So that was exciting to me. So that's the end of that one. Anybody got Miss Maxine? You got a question?
No.
Okay.
Following the flow.
Okay. Anybody else got anything on that? If y'all will allow me, I'll go over this. I know the mayor had a couple questions about it at the last board meeting. So in my world, this is covered, talking about fire tax, or Johnson County fire tax. I talked to the county attorney, and she kind of understands now, but she didn't. The reason they didn't put it in this wording is because she was going by the general statute or whatever she had reading off of. But in our language, fire tax is what it is. Even though this don't say nothing about it, people read it and they say, Lord, the county's taking over. That's the furthest from the truth. I've been on this committee since it started, and I plan to stay on it another 2 or 3 years, as long as y'all allow me, Ms. Kim allow me, to keep it heading in the right direction and good things happening. So they're calling it the Single County Fire Protection Service District Informational Meetings. We've had 3 so far. I've attended all 3. Matter of fact, Kim come to the last one in Princeton. There's 2 more coming up. this Saturday at 10 o'clock at Triple S High School. That'll be the next one. Next Wednesday night at South Johnson. That'll be the one in our district. So that's next Wednesday night at 6 o'clock. And they're going to show the same slideshow. I just wanted to show y'all if anybody's got any questions. I'm not going to read every word, but I'll try to give you the quick view of it. So, again, while ago, I'm saying there's 23 fire departments in Johnson County. There's actually 28 fire districts or fire departments serving Johnson County with 26 taxable districts in the county. So the 26 taxable districts in the county, the fire tax ranges from 6 cents to 15 cents. We're at 12, so we're kind of in the middle. So the goal is to get everybody on the same playing field. Now, I don't foresee, not calling no names, Strickland's Crossroads, Bentonville, Brogdon, any of them ever providing the level of service that Cleveland and Clayton does as far as what they got today. Like I said, in Clayton, while they got them 14 people on the scene, at the station at all times. But so we're saying a reasonable level of service. Somebody at the station, somebody to respond, a reasonable level of service for where you're at. So that's what that one there talks about. Multiple taxpayers will not pay the fire service district tax, the town of Wilson Mills. So Wilson Mills, the fire department was there before the town. So the fire department had a fire tax at the time. So for whatever reason, when the town of Wilson Mills became a town, they chose to let the fire departments keep collecting the fire tax that they were receiving at that point in time. So the town of Wilson Mills does not pay their fire department like y'all allow us to get the 12 cents of the town tax, if I'm explaining this right. Town of Wilson Mills does the fire department. They're the only ones in the county that does it that way. All the other towns have a contract with the town. Fire departments have a contract with the town to provide the fire service. Okay. Fire departments will continue to provide services to all the unincorporated areas. Again, so this is not talking about no towns. This is not talking about no municipalities. It's only talking about all the county citizens in Johnson County. Okay. So again, 23 contracted fire departments, 5 out of county contracted fire departments that does provide service. Staffing range from full-time paid, 100%, down to all volunteer. Number of responses for each department range from 3,000, as you saw a while ago, down to 100. I know you didn't see the downside, but you saw the top. And then just the different services provided. So approximately 900 fire department personnel in Johnson County. This is why I say the county is not wanting to take over any fire department. They ain't ready for 900 employees, in my opinion. But in 1993, total responses in the county was a little over 2,600, with a population 86,000. Today, every department in the county responded just over 23,000 calls, and population just above 230,000. So as you can see, that's a really big increase. So the mission statement for the fire service strategic plan to establish a countywide fire service district that enable county and fire service leaders to better the future of the fire service throughout Johnson County, and the fire service leaders will implement minimum standards to ensure that the citizens are receiving a reasonably equal level of service. With the vision statement following that up, what is best for Johnson County citizens, or the citizens of Johnson County. So that's just kind of, what we're looking for. So goal number 1 is to provide a standard funding avenue for all Johnson County. So no matter where you live at, excluding the municipalities and towns, everybody's going to pay the same fire tax or service tax. I still call it fire tax, but it's service tax. Well, service, they ain't got tax in there, but that's what it is. So February the 19th is the next county commissioners meeting. They're looking at somebody making a vote to call for a public hearing to allow this. We're still going, there'll be one more meeting, one more public input meeting after that, which will be at South Johnson next Wednesday. After this, and then you got to wait a month, and y'all know how that's better than me, but before they go to the county, to the vote or whatever. So July 1st, if it all passes, we'll go to a single-wide county fire service district. We'll go into effect. So goal number 2, to provide a minimum level of service throughout the county that the citizens deserve and expect. We got a lot of people moving in that come from somewhere where there's a fire department around every corner up there, and then to get here and there ain't even nobody at the station. So that takes some getting used to. So they're expecting a lot more. Not saying that's bad, it just, your response time's a little longer, so. With that being said, that they kind of expect a lot more. The minimum staffing level for Johnson County departments is 1 firefighter Monday through Friday. And again, that's what I was talking about a while ago. So that, July the 1st, 2024, that's what we're shooting for. January 1st, 2025, for all Johnson County departments, will offer first responder service at a minimum of emergency medical responder level. 2025, a minimum effective, January 2025, a minimum ERF, effective response force, is established by county staff and fire service, and that's the fire service leader. So I'm in the fire service leader. I'm sitting on this board. We meet often, so we're still trying to come up with all this stuff. And then we've even talked about, and this is what scares some people, but to be determined, as you can see, closest station dispatching will be implemented by adjusting insurance district lines based on collected data. So we're going to do at least 2 years of data collection, and then we may implement the closest station response to the citizens. Again, keep back in mind the vision is what's best for the citizens, not what's best for Benson Fire Department or what's best for Smithfield Fire Department, what's best for the citizens. So goal number 3, to implement common practices countywide that will allow for standard data collection among departments. So again, that's just where we're going to be 2024, 2025, collecting the data to get to where we need to go. Goal number 4, to provide a budget processing that addresses and fulfills the needs of departments to provide a reasonable level, equal level of service. Again, some departments not going to ever provide what other ones has, but we're going to try to get it as reasonable as we can. And if the funds are there, that's going to help close that gap in. So departments will continue to be funded under the current funding, so no district lines is going to change now. There's still going to be 23 fire departments. They're still going to respond to the same areas they've always had. Departments will then transition into a budget submittal, so that's going to be coming in 2 to 3 years. And just like with a municipality like us, when we do budget submittal, if there's any extra money or from this money, it'll be proportion based. We've got a plan on that, but it's still a lot to work out. Budget submittal process details are still being discussed. There you go. All funding for fire service throughout the unincorporated area of the county will be funded by that single countywide fire tax. So whatever they're paying in Wilson Mills, they're also going to be paying in Bentonville. So a couple of frequently asked questions: will I continue to receive services from a local fire department? Yes, nothing's going to change. They ain't going to no single county-wide fire department. So how will this affect my taxes? The taxes I pay. All residents in the incorporated area of Johnson County will pay the same cost for fire protection. So whoever who's paying 6, if the number winds up wherever it winds up at, obviously they're going to pay more. The ones paying 15 is going to pay less. But in the end, everybody's going to be paying the same. Key takeaways: what is best for the citizens of Johnson County? That's our focus. Single tax rate for fire protection service, fire district. To provide equal level of service to all Johnson County citizens. All fire departments are benefiting in multiple ways through this plan, and the names of the departments will not change, and the fire departments will continue to provide the fire protection service. And then again, that's the meetings that we've already had, the last 2 up, and so that again, that's the same slideshow that that we've played, and the same one to be done. Question and answers. I mean, you can hear from the county officials; they can talk about it. Again, the county's not wanting to get in the fire service business. Trust me when I say that. All right, that's what I got. Has anybody got any questions on this?
I got a question.
Talk to me.
Because we're facing, what we talked about previous on that matrix from the county. And with the guidelines and everything implemented and stuff like that. So if money starts going down as far as the fire department's not in municipalities, can they pull that money back from us and give it to them?
I didn't follow you. So the
Because
county,
the county, they in that matrix, what was it, 100 and something thousand?
we're receiving 173.
Right. Can they pull that money back from us because the ones outside some municipalities are struggling?
No.
Okay.
And it's, and I sure don't know how to say that in the most professional way, but what you do for one, you've got to do for the other.
Mm-hmm.
So the matrix the way it's set up, it's designed, whatever you do, that's what you get paid for. But that's where that minimum of 300,000 comes in, because the departments that don't reach that's where they get it first. They get to that 300,000 first.
I got another question.
Okay.
Well, also, does any of these fire departments have board of directors for the fire department?
Board of Directors. So the county departments, yes. I mean, they all have a board to answer to.
Okay.
The municipalities, you know,
Yeah.
they're set, okay, so there's 3 different levels. You're either 100% volunteer.
Right.
There's 4 departments in the county, which is us, Clayton, Smithfield, Selma, that's owned by the town. And then the other, Wilson Mills, Micro, Kenley, Pine Level, Princeton, 10 of them, I don't know exactly, but 8 or 10 of them. They are incorporated fire departments that also have town, like I say, they have a contract with the town to provide service. But again, none of those towns is included in this right here.
Right.
It's all the county part. But to answer your question, no. We're still, even our tax money is still going, whatever the rate is, nobody's going to receive any less. It's all based on what we are today. You know, and even next year with the reevaluation year, the hope is everybody's budgets go up a little bit more. Don't mean nothing bad against taxpayers, because they're going to have to pay a little bit more, but get more. But then the matrix is still going to be on top of all that, the way it's designed to set up. I hope I answered your question.
You did.
Okay, with confidence.
Is
Huh?
it,
I said with confidence, yes.
is it gonna be easier as we grow to have the town line being inside of another fire department's
I don't,
territory? Would it be easier to move that line than it is today?
other than, and this is just hypothetical speaking because I don't know, if you're inside of that district, no, I don't know. But if the line moves, we have to go, just say the closest dispatch, you know, our line may move between us and another department, may move another half a mile to give us more territory. But I mean, if it's that, that's the only way it can happen, that it won't affect us, or won't affect them, or both of us, a combination. I mean, if we grow, you know, one way or the other, and we wind up, the town winds up, well, the people request to come inside the town limits, to be voluntary annexed, and then, you know, we'll service them then, under the general statute that we have today, we'll still have to pay that department.
Well, I think there'll be a lot of discussions about that, and as you move into the area and you get more and more people in there, the people that's there is going to want to have the fire department looking after them that they pay taxes to.
Right, and that's, and the closest response, again, that's going to help decide some of that factor, but I don't know how much more, I don't know how far we can go inside of another district where they can come inside of ours, other than, you know, like I say, what's being worked on.
Does anybody else have questions of Alan?
If you think of something else, y'all got my number, you can call me anytime. And if you're around in next Wednesday night, and want to go to South Johnson, Lord willing, I'll be there, and y'all come and hear from the county folks. Then I'll sit in the back there and be quiet, and then you see if you hear the same thing twice, then you know if it's legit or not, right?
Good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Chief of Police, come forward to make your year-end presentation.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and board members. My presentation is probably not near as comprehensive as Alan's was, so it probably won't take near as long. But like he said, our year was plenty busy for us as well. With you know, with the growth everyone's experiencing, you know, everybody is busy most of the day. You have the actual written annual report in your board packet. The slideshow is just going to be a brief overview of some of the stuff I already covered in it. For the first portion of it, for 2023, police department staff participated in or assisted with 41 special events in 2023. 17 of those were events for the police department, like Coffee with a Cop or our Welcome Back to School events that we did. 9 were Town of Benson sponsored, and 15 were non-town affiliated events. During last year, we hired 2 experienced officers from nearby agencies, and we hired 2 police trainees to fill in some of our vacant positions. We received equipment in the form of a new speed trailer and also new radar units from a Governor's Crime Commission grant that we actually were awarded in 2022. It took a while to get the funds and then receive the equipment because of supply chain issues. And then lastly, we leased 3 Dodge Chargers from Enterprise. We were lucky enough to get in on one of the last model year vehicles. For recruiting and retention, it's always a focus for us, probably as well as it is with the fire department. May of last year, our captain retired, and we had to backfill around that. And 2 officers left to work at other agencies, one being Johnston County, and the other one was for Dunn PD. We hired 2 certified and experienced officers using our sign-on bonus program. We hired 2 police trainees and sent them to BLET, but unfortunately only one of those graduated. The education and training bonus program went into effect in July, which is basically a one-time payment for bachelor's degrees, associate's degrees, and the like. And then the salary increase that we received in July from the MAP study raised our starting salary to 3rd highest in the county, but by the end of 2023 it had fallen to 6th highest. It's a bidding war for officers, basically. The demographics of our department for 2023, we were 60% white male, 13% black male, 13% Hispanic male, and 13% white female. We have some hires in the process that we're waiting to get their paperwork through the state, and that will change our demographics slightly. It will actually increase the percentage of black males to 18%, and white males will decrease to 56%. So it's kind of they're flip-flopping a little bit. Some of our notable accomplishments in 2023, we applied for $57,000 in grants. One from the Governor's Highway Safety Program and the other one from the U.S. Department of Justice for equipment and potential overtime, but unfortunately, like Alan said, it's a very competitive process, and we weren't selected for either of those. One of our newest community engagement events was Catch and Release with Benson Police, which is where we took Benson Elementary School students fishing last April. I thought it was incredibly well received. They enjoyed it, and we're already planning to do it again this April. Our police ordinance was updated to current standards with Ike's help. We held welcome back events at both schools. We passed out gift bags of pencils and erasers and notepads and stuff for them to use. Our National Night Out event featured an appearance from the Duke Life Flight helicopter and the pilot and medical personnel. Our Cops for Kids toy drive provided a donation of toys and games to both Bama and the 4-Leaf Clover program. And lastly, we had officers that volunteered at the community Thanksgiving meal, at the Christmas closet, and we had some that participated in the JOCO Works career event at Johnston Community College. Our statistics for last year, our total law enforcement responses were 7,187, which is actually a 5.5% decrease from what we had in 2022. It equaled up to about 600 responses, but our 3-year average for that is also 26.5% increase. So last year was a down year for us, but I expect it to probably pop back up again. Our total incident reports increased by 3%. Our total arrest reports increased by 5.5%. Our citations issued increased by 43%. And our motor vehicle crashes decreased again by 7.5%. Our traffic accidents have decreased 13% since 2021. Our use of force, we had 4 for the year. All four were consistent with our revised use of force policy that we put into place in 2020. Our percent of arrest with the use of force was 1.5. We had one external complaint that was filed. It was found to be not sustained. And then our officers completed 534 hours of mandated training, and they completed 1,146 hours of voluntary training on their own. And our goals for 2024, we're applying again for a $24,000 grant from the Governor's Crime Commission and a $25,000 grant from the Governor's Highway Safety Program. Both of those will be used for equipment and potential overtime costs to address situations in town. In 2023, the town instituted an employee assistance program, and one of the components of that is the First Responders Assistance Program. And our participation in that, we instituted a yearly check-in for the officers where they have to meet either by phone or virtually with a counselor or a psychiatrist just to gauge their level of mental fitness. And they have to do that every year as per our policy. And then we also utilize critical incident stress debriefings after a few traumatic events occurred in town. Basically, it's a session where they sit down and meet with a psychiatrist or a counselor to discuss what happened and how they can best cope with it. For 2024, we'll be sending additional officers through the Crisis Intervention Team training and Veterans Crisis Intervention Team training. And we'll also be getting some of our new officers certified in mental health first aid for public safety. And then in 2024, actually it's taking place right now, we're launching a Citizens Police Academy program. We had 8 attendees sign up for it. There's one session left next week, and we hope to continue that and potentially even add a junior Citizens Police Academy for school-age children. And then we also implemented the Take Me Home program, which is a searchable database of adults and children with dementia, Alzheimer's, autism, and other cognitive impairments. It's designed so that an officer can search his laptop. Say a parent comes up and my kid's missing, you can input the child's name, especially if they had autism or something, and they'll be in that database. Or if the child comes up to the officer, you can search it by photo, you can search it by name, age, anything, and it's designed to link these challenged people back up with their families or caregivers. And then lastly, there's a Crisis Intervention Team awards banquet Friday of this week. We have 2 officers that will be receiving CIT awards. One's for CIT, one's for Veteran CIT, but more importantly, Lieutenant Whitman will be receiving the 2021-2022 CIT Champion of the Year for his work supporting the countywide program. He helps instruct it. He role plays. He does everything that they need, and we're extremely proud of him. And with that, if you have any questions, I'm readily available.
I just make a comment. I think our police department should be proud of the fact that they have been faced with guns in their face and they haven't shot anybody. And I think that is a real outstanding credit that they get.
Yeah, and I know the situation you're talking about, and I spoke at length with the officer about that, and told him that I hate that it happened, but I'm glad that it worked out the way that it did for everybody. All right, thank y'all.
Thank you, Chief. Does any of the commissioners have any questions about the department reports that you received?
I don't have a question more than just a statement for discussion, just to see kind of where the board's feeling. I know I went through the reports, and the HR report concerns me a little bit because a few meetings ago, we told the town to go on a hiring freeze. And right now, by count today, we're 11 short throughout the town in staff members and losing more. And so I just kind of thought if not now, definitely in the retreat, we need to have a discussion on what we're gonna do to not necessarily add new staff, but what we're gonna do to replenish staff if we're gonna continue on this hiring freeze for right now, because I know police looks like they're down 2, but across the HR report, there was 11 down all the way across the town. I know there's two vacancies, or one now fixing to be another vacancy in planning, and so forth and so on. And just wanted to bring that up for discussion if anybody had any thoughts.
Any other comments?
Or Kim, how's that working for you?
Yeah, I mean, I sent out an email to everybody, kind of giving them an update. I've heard back from 2 of the commissioners. Logically, I talked with wastewater today. We brought in somebody part-time to help fill the role of chief operator since we lost one due to medical. And he's thinking more along the lines of hiring a lower level employee because the part-timer is working out well and he's good. So that would reduce that cost. You just heard Alan. We do have matrix money. We did do a budget amendment in July because we knew the matrix money was coming in. We did the budget amendment to put it at salaries. We did some for equipment that we had to pay because he had to have air packs, and partially most of that was grant money, but there was some that had to come out of town funds. But the line item itself is available. Public Works, they're okay right now. We don't necessarily need to fill that position right now. Library Museum, Derek has it worked out, but I'm sure he would love to have that position filled as his schedule stays pretty busy, especially right now with like History Month planning. The planning department, I'm not going to be able to go without a planning director. And honestly, y'all, we really need to hire a building inspector. You're going to see the contract for Jacob later on in this meeting. He has promised us 6 months and then a renegotiation in July. So we're going to have to fill that position. Code enforcement, we can go without. Code enforcement was a new position. So we can go without that until July. If y'all can go without code enforcement until then. The finance director, that's something we're going to need to discuss because that position has always been, when I first came, it was a standalone position. But then I became the assistant manager, and then I did a dual role, and then Angie did a dual role. So that position, technically, if we're not going to have a dual role, needs to be recreated in the budget. So really yes, that is a need, but that's a kind of a false statement because y'all have to approve it. It's not budgeted for. And then we have to fill the custodian role. I would love, we had pretty much decided on who was going to take the assistant manager position when we went on the hiring freeze. I would love to fill that position, but that's kind of where we are.
Any other comments? Just one comment I have on the water and sewer. I made the statement many times that 10% of the water going down the drain is too much, but I had talked to other mayors and talked to some people at the meeting we went to last week in Fayetteville, that 10% is not, it seems to be the norm of water that has to be run out so that the quality of water remains stable. So, anything else about the department reports?
I'd just say, Kim, even though we told you to go on a freeze, if you need something to relieve some stress of staff, I would say that you ask us for it. I feel like I made a commitment on priorities last year to look after the personnel, and I feel like we might be getting some tension out there.
I would love right now to be able to go back and say, y'all have seen what's online. We've put the planning director online. We're not going to be able to go without a planning director. That is posted. Building inspector is still posted. And I think I stated this in the email. If we don't find a building inspector and we give it back to the county, we will not get it back. statement was made to us when we brought inspections back last January. We will not get it back. So we need to fill that position if you want to continue having inspections in the city. So
But
I would,
also in that, we talked about that as far as going with the county, and we can't afford to go with the county because we would lose all this money. Now, I have asked, I want to know how much money we have made and also how much money it has cost us. I think we need a building inspector, but y'all told me the building inspector that was a level 2 that we had would never leave here. He's been gone 3 or 4 months to the county, exactly where I thought he was going to go, and I don't blame him for $20,000 more a year, and that's what we're going to look. If we're going to hire a building inspector, then you've got to set a salary of $90,000 up to get a level 3 building inspector in here. If not, we're going to have to lose it to the county because the county is on top of theirs and they're hiring everything they possibly can. We even talked about getting Mike Cook in here and sharing him with Four Oaks. Oh, no, you can't do that. Well, he is at Four Oaks now, and he is staying busy over there at Four Oaks, but they are paying him a big salary. We've got several level 3s that are at different, at Clayton. We have got a level 3 at Clayton, but you've got to pay Clayton's prices, you've got to pay Johnson County's prices if you want to do that. And can we afford it? If we can't afford it, then we're going to have to look at the county and just bite our tongue and let them take over so they can do that, and then we won't have to worry about $90,000 or $100,000 a year to pay for a level 3. I think that's something that's coming up that we've got to sit down and make some decisions. It couldn't help that the janitor died and we need a janitor, but everybody right now is going to have to, until we can fill that position, is going to have to empty their own trash cans.
and they are.
And I know they are.
They are.
Okay? But there's other things that we're going to have to do, and we're going to have to pay these people to do it. We knew when we sat down with Greg with the police department that we were going to bump salaries up and do these programs. But I said at that time, well, it won't last. It won't last 3 months because what happened the very next month? Dunn bumped theirs up, and we bumped from number 2 down to number 4. Now we're number 5. Same thing with the fire department. Allen needs 3 full-time firemen, but Cleveland has just hired 15, and the way they got them, they're providing them their own program up there to qualify them to be full-time firemen. We're looking firemen, and either you're local and want to be in Benson, and you can stay on their fire department for $10,000 a year less, then you can go and do the same thing with Cleveland. It's across the board. Something else I've always said, your assistants have got to be an assistant enough that if you decide to leave, that assistant can move right up. We don't want to get in a situation like we were with electrical and with our own finances and different things. We thought it was working, but I'm all for it. But you've got to be able to pay for what you've got.
Right.
I know what, and I think this is a whole situation that next month, when we sit down, we have got to meet, and this is what we've got to talk about. How are we going to keep what we've got, and how are we going to add to what we've got so we can grow? And if we can't, how much growth do we want, and where do we want to go? But what can we afford to do?
So, do you want to sit? I asked at the last meeting, I need 2 members of the board to help me with the board retreat agenda. So can I count on you to be one of those 2?
Sure.
Okay.
But I really thought you had that.
No, nobody's responded.
I'll be the other.
Thank you, Ms. Holly.
Don't you have a list though of what, the amount of money that we've gotten from the inspection?
Yeah, I've got it right here. So they're over budget already. They've brought in 95,596.51, and we budgeted 79 for them. So they're already over revenues for what we had budgeted for them. I'll have to pull up 4,400. Give me just a second, I'll tell you.
I just want, maybe I'm not one of those have it like this, but we approve, and I love Glenn, so I'm not picking on Glenn or Withers, but we just approved $30,000 in an amendment to a contract for an engineering company. And we're fixing to.
You haven't.
Oh, sorry, we're getting ready to look at it. And then we've got a $60 an hour contract for a subcontractor for a building inspector coming up because he increased his rate. We had to go with a subcontractor for electrical this year. And I just think we need to make sure that it's on that agenda on March that we sit down, because I know money coming from the state's great, but if we're not getting it, we're spending a whole lot of money planning, and we're losing people every day because we're planning for something that may come or not.
Well,
And that's
what
what's
happens if the assistant that's full-time in Garner, inspector, decides that, hey, what kind of notice would he give us if he came in and said,
2 weeks.
hey, 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
I am so busy, and I understand. He is busy in Garner doing this, and this is part-time. We get him when we ask for him to come in and inspect.
Mm-hmm.
And how far right now are we behind on inspections that people are waiting on?
We're not behind.
We're not behind?
No, ma'am. No, sir. I just got a head nod from Aaron. We're not behind. And the planning department is at 39% of their budget. So they're under budget in expenses and over budget in revenues.
I have trouble with 39%. I need to know that in dollar amount.
So their budget total was, what we budgeted for was $399,979, and they've spent $159,952.
And they got a few months to go.
Yeah, well, this is as of the end of January, because I haven't finished February yet.
That's not including salaries and stuff.
That is including salaries. That is including salaries for the planning department. It's their,
There's nobody in there.
it's 4,400. They've only spent, and we have Jacob's salary in the salary line item. We just pay him out of that line item. They've spent $95,973.61. So their salaries are at 33% because we budgeted for a building inspector and a code enforcement officer. We created a new position in this budget, and we have not been able to fill either one. So they're under
How much
budget.
did you just say we paid Jacob so far?
No, this is total. This is total.
Okay.
I'm so
Okay,
sorry.
so-
No, yeah, this is all 3 employees. This is total.
The planning department, they're not split between anything, are they?
No, the planning department is the planning department. It is general statute that building permits or permits that revenue that comes in can only go to the planning department. It's something I have to report annually after our audit is done. So the planning department has its own department. It's 4,400. And that's their salaries, their department supplies, that's everything encompassing in their department. And their revenue has to pay for that department, and then the rest of it subsidized through taxes. So we take the revenue first, and then the taxes come second. But, I mean, it's all in one Fund 10.
We're running behind on incoming business.
It's not incoming business. It's a decision on whether I would rather pay to have a sewer line run to a new company or whether I'd have a cop sitting on my door if I call 911. And I think that's what we're going to have to look at when we meet in March, right? Because I'd much rather that cop come than that sewer line and that business come if I'm not home, or that fireman or somebody like that. And I think that's it. We're going to have to increase salaries, and we won't ever be able to be number one. So I don't want to say that, but we're going to have to increase salaries to be able to get people to apply for these positions, or else we're going to have to give up the services.
You can't get the money out of thin air.
You can't get it out of thin air. You're exactly right.
We're trying to.
Well, the decision has to be: are we going to quit doing services, or are we going
We'll
to?
have to make that decision.
That's right. And I just wanted to preface that because this is our meeting before our meeting.
But we got to increase the revenue. Okay, let's move on to old business. Consider approval of Amendment 1, Benson CDBG 1 sewer. Kimberly,
So this is an amendment to an original contract that we have for CDBG. This is grant funds. If y'all recall, this is a sewer rehabilitation project that has been probably 2-3 years in the making. We discussed this previously a few months ago. We went out for bid, and the bids all came back way over budget. So we had to go back to the drawing board, do some value engineering. We had to reduce the bid scope. And so this is just an amendment to Withers Ravenel's original contract on engineering. It is all covered through CDBG. No funds are coming out of the town coffers.
so what do you want us to do tonight?
You have to approve you have to approve the amendment so we can turn it into CDBG.
Do we need to vote on this?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I made that motion.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Okay, we get into new business. Unified Development Ordinance, UDO. Comparison of Benson, Johnson County. Aaron Joseph.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm sorry I have my laptop. I couldn't print out information today, so I'll just look at my laptop. Okay, so at the last meeting regarding the Unified Development Code, we discussed what Johnston County does as far as their development standards in relation to commercial and industrial development, in particular, buffering, landscaping standards that the county has. So I've provided you all in your packets a comparison chart. The first chart actually just compares an overall general standard, so between town of Benson and Johnson County. So required standards, landscaping is something that the town of Benson currently and under the proposed development code requires, as well as Johnson County. Both the county and the town has buffering standards. Building design standards, that was something that was new, that was introduced to the proposed development code, although we took it out. Johnston County does not have any standards that relate specifically to a building design standard. Parking, but your normal site plan, parking standards. One thing that we both have, administrative modifications. However, Johnson County had a little bit more built into their development code, whereas the planning director could modify certain standards regarding parking, regarding buffering and landscaping, things of that nature. So they do have that sort of general statement you'll find within their land development code, where under certain circumstances the planning director can modify standards. Ours, we have a little bit of that, but not as much as Johnston County. So that was something that really stood out to me between our two development codes. Johnston County also has a separate design manual, and that was sent to you all as well. Our standards are built within our development code. They have their development code is Chapter 14, but they also have the design manual that is incorporated within that code, but a separate document that relates specifically to development, and it addresses access, parking, in more detail than the actual ordinance does. And so that's why I sent that to you all. It's a 42-page document. and has a lot of those standards that we have within our development code, specifically Chapter 6 under the proposed code, and Chapter 4 with subdivision and site development improvements. When you are, and this was a really big discussion, so I really focus in on the buffering standards because there was a lot of concern that came back from comments. And so I wanted you all to see that Johnson County and the town of Benson both have buffering requirements. Specifically, we called ours a perimeter boundary buffer to separate the different uses. And so industrial required a Class C buffer if it was adjacent to residential property, residentially zoned property district, or uses. Johnston County has a very similar model that we have in our current code. We have the buffering, the more intense the proposed uses, the more intense the district boundary buffer will be. One change that we did make under the proposed development code is instead of only applying that buffering by district, we have proposed to make it by use, land use. And so in the first chart that you have, you'll see, and really the hot kind of topic was the industrial next to adjacent, where you see that, more so in your ETJ area. And so industrial, we still recommend that you have that Class C buffer. However, if it is adjacent to a cemetery or vacant land or railroad, so we've parsed that out instead of it just being by district. And so that helps a little bit. Whereas, let's say you are industrial and you are adjacent to vacant land that's residential, either the R1, R2, or R3, which is currently the R30, AR, R11, and R6. In the current code, it would still require a Class C buffer because of the district. In the proposed table, it lessens that buffering to a Class B buffer. And so that was, so we tried to tweak it a bit to be more responsive to the land use and not necessarily the district. When you look at Johnston counties, they have, now, and again, Johnston County, it's a little different because it's a county. They have mostly state roads, different land use patterns, things like that. So more open space, whereas we are on a more dense fabric in the town when you're looking at municipality versus county. And so they still have a similar structure. They have broken theirs down, however, with the type of landscape area, more specifically the type, it's still a Class C buffer, but it lessens the width of that buffering. So a Class C, if it's adjacent to a street, would be 30 feet. If it's an internal property line, then it's 15 feet. So those were some of the major differences with Johnston County. It's still where they even, if they are adjacent to the proposed use is industrial and it's adjacent to an industrial use or zoning, they still base theirs off of zoning as well. It still requires a buffer. It requires a Class A buffer, whereas in our code, if it's industrial to industrial, there's no buffering required. So just, similar framework, but standards tweaked in between to really address kind of more specifically the county, their development patterns, and then the town of Benson, again, with our development patterns. So that's what I've prepared and brought for you all this evening. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions about it, or, discuss any way forward with the proposed development code that we have.
Aaron, did you find anything that really stood out to you that was totally different that we would really need to take a big look at, that would make or break a deal if we were working on one? When they look at the county and say, well, I can go 2 miles and be in the county and I don't have to do this. Nothing.
There wasn't anything that really stood out to me. What we proposed that was very different was the building design standards. Now, and the county did not have anything requiring for their commercial industrial buildings, 15% transparency, the siding, how that building relates to the surrounding area. That was something that was unique and new for Benson, but we said we didn't want that. Johnson County didn't have anything of that nature. So maybe, there is a standout that they don't have anything at all with that. Keep in mind, their ordinance is several decades old. They may be updating their development code soon, and we don't know what they would, implement in there. And then the only thing that stood out to me was that it was written in there that the planning director could modify a lot more standards than the town of Benson allows. So that was stark, and that could be to work with developers and things like that, but under specific criteria or consideration, did their code allow that the planning director to make those modifications. And so that was the only 2 things that really stuck out. The bones of it are really the same when you look. Ours is certainly more detailed as far as, but they have their design manual. So they have used a lot of standards because it's county. It's a lot of NCDOT roads, so they reference the fire code, the NCDOT manual. More general statements, well-maintained, quality material, things of that nature, where we've specifically asked for this type of quality material, let's say for fencing or, paving for a site, so some of the language is a little more general in the county's code, but there was nothing that was starkly different that I would say would put them in a cutting edge over the town of Benson when compared to development codes.
Aaron, you said you brought up buffers as an example, and both entities require a Class C buffer. You gave us the definition of the counties at the 15-foot internal line. What is the buffer requirement in the town?
So the town has 3 options within its Class C buffering, and you can also include in that a wall, a berm, or some kind of screening. So for ours, it goes from 10 to 30 feet.
10 to 30 feet, okay. So if I was in the ETJ on a county road, NCDOT road, how wide of a buffer would I have to do?
In our ETJ, you could choose. You could choose. You have the option to choose between those 3 levels within that Class C buffer. So that's something that's good within ours.
Okay.
That you have those options within not only the Class C, but the Class A and the Class B. It gives you different widths and different options to to
So
satisfy it.
by increasing the amount of plant material and stuff I put in, and I can reduce the width of it, but if I do the less plant material, then I have to go to the 30
Yeah,
foot. Is
right,
that
because
correct?
it spreads it
So
out a bit
let's,
more.
let's do apples and apples. Right here, if I do an internal 15 foot on a Class C, it says I've got to do 3 large trees, 4 small trees, and 12 shrubs.
Mhm.
If I wanted to do a 15 foot on an ETJ in the town, how
Mhm.
much more material would I have to purchase to be able to do a 15 foot?
You would do a, because we have a 15-foot alternative as well, so you would do 1 canopy tree, 2 understory trees, and 12 shrubs.
Okay.
And then also, you have to include a wall, a berm, or OPEC fence, or any combination thereof
Which the
within
county
that.
doesn't require.
No.
So we're looking about the same cost in buffer, plus the town's gonna require a wall.
A wall, a
fence.
OPEC fence, or even an evergreen hedge.
Right, okay.
And that's kind of where I said the county has a more general, not as specific. The town goes in a little further. We want a wall, a berm. Now, the county does, allow for a wall, a berm, or another screening, a fence. And it can, in lieu of the landscape materials.
But ours
as
do
well.
not, correct?
It doesn't. I think that's something that likely could be, even at site plan approval, that makes sense. I think you still have to use, common sense on, is the spirit of the ordinance being satisfied? If you need to reduce, you're going to naturally reduce some of your landscaping because you've put in that buffer, that wall or berm, that may be more appropriate in certain situations than just the actual planting material. So, I think that's good that we offer options and you can work with it. And we also allow credit for existing plant material and also our plantings. And also I believe there's a little bit of language about modification in there. You just have to show justification for it.
Well, it looks like under industrial, in the county, it looks like there's a lot more A's than we have. In fact, it looks like A and B is all they do have. They only have 1 C on the whole chart.
Yeah, C is really going to be your industrial, your heavier commercial uses, adjacent to residential. That's really where you're going to see that most of the time, to separate such a low intensity to the highest intensity. So, and in your packet you have what our current district boundary buffer requires and what the proposed one is. So you can even compare, contrast those as well.
But it's hard to compare these two, because when you're looking at the town, you've got a lot more categories that you have in the boundaries and the buffer standards. You don't just have an industrial by itself.
Right. You try to lump those, and that's why we're trying to get away from just district and just saying, well, if you're adjacent to I-1, I-2, Class C buffer, RA, R, residential district, Class C buffer all the way around. Try to be mindful of the actual land uses and when you are requiring how intense that buffering should be.
But if you take the industrial, there's 3 C's and 2 B's.
Which one are you looking at on Town of Benson, on the proposed or the existing?
No, in the front.
Okay.
First page.
Okay. Yep, so you have industrial, So you have that single-family, detached residential, then you have all other residential, B&B, short-term rental, anything that's accommodation, anything that's residential, civic, public uses, office service. So that's really, because that is your most intense industrial, automotive, major utility, solar, shooting range, ag level 2. Those are your heavy uses, next to your most or less intense uses.
But theirs is still much less than what we have. Because I thought that's what the job was, to look at Johnson County and see how we compare to them in,
Yeah.
you know, those categories.
Yeah, so that shows you right there. So industrial, residential, they don't break it out as much as we have. Industrial is C, office and institutional is B. We're still requiring some institutional, civic, public uses as C, business B, industrial A. So they, you know, there's differences there. Ours, industrial across the board, we're showing that you're going to want a Class C buffer. The county shows that theirs is mostly, predominantly residential is that Class C buffer. So that's a difference.
I think the biggest difference that I see that when I've looked at it and what I've been told, obviously, by other people in the development community is, I think the biggest difference is the fencing. If you say a Class C buffer for an industry and the ETJ is going to say $300 a foot for me to install that, which is pretty even, right, between Benson and the county. But then you add an opaque privacy fence that I've got to put down that 200-foot parcel at about $35 to $50 a foot. That's going to be the difference in cost that the county doesn't require that we do, right? And I think that's the biggest difference that I see. But I think, and I don't want to be the one to do it, but I think that the dive in here is we need to look at it and say, how many in-city properties on our future land use plan are identified as industrial? And I don't know that there's that many in the city limits that is identified industrial compared to what we've tried to identify as industrial in the ETJ, which is the only direction we're going to be able to grow. And so if we're trying to get industry to the ETJ because we've identified that in our land use plan, and then we call them here and say, well, you've got to do everything the county does plus install a fence beside this field full of cows, then that's when it becomes more advantageous for them to lean toward the county versus the city. And say, well, if I go a mile down the road and get out of Benson's ETJ, I don't have to do the extra steps. And I think that's it all intertwined with our future land use map and where we want that industry to go. I would assume we want it to go down 242 based on what we've currently rezoned. And so I think the question is, if developer A goes down 242 and has a 25-acre parcel, are we going to make him take 30 foot off of that 25-acre parcel if that's what he chooses all the way around that parcel and do everything the county says with the bushes and the trees? They were pretty similar, but then are we going to make him fence in that 30-acre parcel with a fence that you can't see through at $50 a foot? And I think that's where we run into the snag. I think moving forward, I asked for this a couple months ago. I wasn't here at the last meeting, but we've got to do something because our UDO is non-compliant with 160D right now. We're non-compliant with the law, and so we got to do something. A suggestion came to me today that I kind of liked. I mean, I feel like we should meet with the planning department on this. There's where the buck meets the road. They're the first people, and they're the ones that put in the most work on this, not us. They did all the work, and then we brought it and slapped them down. I think we need to. Maybe, I mean, it was suggested to me, what if we spend Friday night at our retreat with the planning board going over this so that and with our staff that is in the planning department and our attorney and decide what we want moving forward. Because we can't approve anything. We've got to do an open hearing, a public hearing, just like we did last time, and we've got to go through the whole process again since we denied it. So I would suggest sitting down with the planning board so that that board and this board can get on the same page about what we want, And then we can draft it, and then we can do a public hearing, and then we can approve it so that we meet that compliance. That's my 2 cents.
Well, I agree with you. This is something that we can't drag our feet on as much as we already have. Aaron, I appreciate the 18, 24 months you have put in this. And I hate that you are leaving before it's finished. But in saying that, William, you're right on. We need to do this in our planning session. We need to come up with something because we have nothing. We're working off an old UDO that doesn't even qualify anymore.
It was brought
And
up.
we were presented a new UDO and we didn't like it, so we did away with it. Now it's time for us to put our heads together and go ahead and commit to something and make sure it's right. But I do.
Thank you.
I hate your leaving,
Thank you.
but appreciate your work.
Thank you.
You've
Appreciate
done a great
the
job.
time. Thank you, Commissioner. I really do
I just
appreciate
wish
the
it
time.
would have all worked out at our other meeting, and there was just too many questions that everybody had that was unanswered.
Absolutely. And that's something you don't want to rush into. I wouldn't ever
Well,
recommend
you
anyone
don't
to
feel
do
like
that.
you rushed into it, do you?
Not-
18 months is a long time to put on something, and I know a lot of other department heads sat down and helped you get there too.
Yes.
And we don't even look at their time and the money that was spent on, we're looking at 109,000 from one company. We're not really looking at salaries and stuff that has been put in to the new UDO.
Right.
But
Yeah.
anyway,
It's a working document.
that is something
So-
that needs to be maybe a
Change.
Friday night.
Well, we were saying the Friday night of the board retreat. Would everybody
Yeah.
be amenable to that? Because if so, I need to contact the planning board like tomorrow to get it on their
And the
calendars.
planning board be there.
Yes.
They would love that.
And that would be our sole discussion that Friday night, would be to discuss this UDO. Maybe I can get Aaron to come back.
You make a motion.
Do you need a motion?
I don't need a motion, I just need a head nod, because I'll get the agenda, we'll work on the agenda, and that'll be Friday night. So then we just gotta worry about Saturday. Is everybody good with that?
I'm fine with it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aaron, I would
Thanks,
just,
Aaron.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Aaron, I would like to say to you on behalf of this board, I'm going to echo Commissioner Chandler. I think you've done a fantastic job. I think you've held your patients very well. Probably a lot better than I would have been able to have held mine. But I admire you. I wish you the very, very best of luck in your new job.
Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot to me. Thank you. I appreciate all the time and the growth that I've had with Benson and learning and working with you all. I'm rooting for Benson all day long. I'll be back at Mule Day, so I know that this can get done and it'll be a great document for the whole town. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
again.
you.
You're welcome.
Consider approval of Johnson County Mayor's Association invoice. What this is the regionalization study that's going on that we had approved a few meetings ago, that we would support the study, not necessarily support the outcome. And in order to get that done, we have the old Triangle J that they're making an agreement with that is going to charge a little over $11,000 to do the project. And in order to pay for that, each town would pay $500 for 2023 and $500 for 23-24 to pay for that $11,000. So that's what our part of that is $1,000 will cover the months that is going on. we have representation on that committee, voting committee, and Kim and I are, well, no, Kim and I are, we're there, one or the other, and William Neighbors is the other person.
Voter,
So
yeah.
we have one person sitting up front, and we could have two sitting in the second row, which you can participate, but you can't vote. The only one that can vote is the one that's at the table. So I'm recommending that we approve this, so that we can get them started in getting this done. If we don't have regionalization on our tip of our tongue when we go back to the state this time, we probably are gonna come away with an empty hand. That's the word that everybody is after, and, so I'll entertain a motion to approve this.
Where are we pulling it from?
It'll have to come out of the board's department, so the 4100
The
department.
board's department, so we're giving up their salaries, huh? So the board could, we could.
You could, I guess you could. Yeah, it'll come out of dues and subscriptions. And it has to be approved because it's the mayor's expense. You know, anything the commissioners do has to be approved by the board. That's not originally budgeted, so.
You have any questions about it?
I think it's got to be done,
Yeah,
but I'm asking you, is it worth it?
You've been in a meeting. I'm just saying, if y'all got any questions about it, I'll make sure everybody's clear. You got any questions?
Yeah, I got a whole lot of questions about it.
But, so basically, the way this came about pretty much was about, I guess, well, it's been in the Mayor's Association, but I'm not privy to that, obviously, but, I guess about a year ago, Will, the county is working on a regionalization study. Like, we just did a stormwater study, they're doing a water and sewer study for the entire county. The county is heading it up. When I was first made aware of it, we received a notification of it from the county commissioners. They were bypassing us. We were not included pretty much in that regionalization. We pretty much got back into the loop. And this is not saying that we're going to go regionalization, but I feel like we need to have a place at the table, and that's what Jerry Fields does. We're not committing anything. This is not an alliance. The county is heading this up through the mayor, and the mayor's organization's heading this up. We're just helping, and the county's helping fund it too, fund this study to study what regionalization could look like through all the municipalities in the county. And so that's where it is. And this $1,000 over the next 2 years is going to help pay Triangle J to lead us through this study. That's pretty much what it is.
And what I like about it
Right.
is 6 months ago, I reckon I was at a mayor's meeting in Smithfield, and we were introduced to Triangle J. Everything, every town, every municipality is having to go, the whole state is having to go on a realization.
Regionalization.
Okay. Anyway, they have to get there to get their money, because one person sitting out here, if the town of Benson says, no, we're not a part of it, well, we won't be a part of it. We won't be a part of it on the state or the county or anything else. I think it has to be done. It's kind of like an outside service, getting everybody together so it will be as fair as possible.
I would compare it to the matrix that we just talked about in the
Yeah,
fire department.
uh-huh.
We were sitting there with
There's a lot
Wilson
of
Mills and Selma and Princeton and Kinley, who have nowhere near the infrastructure that we have, and they're kind of sitting there like the stepchildren, right? And they're
bypassed?
I don't know the answer to that question.
What?
So because we were in the middle of
bypass?
doing our own study, I think is the answer to that question. They thought that, I don't know, but it's fixed now, and we're part of it. And every town has a voting board member on it. And so,
It's just amazing to me, because you're dealing with that, and we got a wastewater treatment plant.
I think you talking about the original plan. I think because it was done by the alliance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, and Benson
Right.
wasn't a part of the alliance,
Yeah.
and so it bypassed us because of that.
And now it's stepped up a little bit, and the county said, hey, you're right, we need to do this, and so it's gone to the county level now. That's the better way to put
It's
that.
twofold. The
Yeah.
county's doing a regionalization study themselves, and then the mayors are discussing joining together as a regional, like joining waters. It's kind of twofold, but they're
Right.
using the study from the county, and then
So
how
are you gonna
can-
do a study to study to study? Is that what it, is that
The
what you're
county,
saying?
the county is doing,
The
the
county
county
was
is
already
doing the
doing it.
study. The Triangle J, what we're paying for is for Triangle J to lead us through the next
Lead us through
24
the next,
months to
yeah.
say, if the municipality boards decided they wanted to jump on this program, this is what it would look like going forward.
Yeah, would it be an authority? Would it
I'm
be something else?
surprised that we can do it for $1,000.
Well, yeah.
And that's it. I was expecting them to come up $50,000
Honestly,
per unit.
I
and-
think Lee's given up a lot of staffing.
I think so.
I think he really, and the county's paying more than the towns are.
Yeah.
I think the county, we were all paying 1,000 and the county's paying what, like maybe
2,000.
2,000, yeah, so.
So,
I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve $1,000 over the next 2 years for Triangle J.
All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Consider approval, resolution 249-224. Kimmy,
So we discussed this, we're calling it the Lassie grant. It's got a number now. But we talked about this some months ago. If y'all recall, I was asking for pictures of flooding downtown, for flooding around Carly C's. So we were awarded $400,000 grant funds in order to do get a bid ready project together. So do the planning and get the bid packet together. This would not include construction. This would be basically be able for us to go to somebody and say, this project is ready to go. Can you fund it? And this is going to focus on the areas around Main Street, Market Street, Railroad Street, where you see all the flooding around TNT and in those areas. It's also going to focus on the areas between 301 at Carly C's and behind it, like on Riddick Street, because we know we've got some bad stormwater pipes over there that have actually collapsed. And so, again, it's $400,000. The Wooten Company is who we've been working with. We'll have to do engineering services out for bid and all that. But it's taken this long for the state to actually get our award packet to us. So we have to approve the resolution. We'll send them a bunch of information. We'll probably come back to you guys for a couple more things, but this is kind of step one.
You still got all the information, all the pictures?
Yes, sir. Oh, yeah, yeah. And we've actually submitted, we've actually gone back and gone to Golden Leaf with the pictures around Carly C's, and we have an estimated cost, and we have submitted for another grant for construction over there. So we haven't heard, we're on the agenda. We haven't heard back from them yet, but they've got construction money right now. So that's a little easier fix than what Main Street is.
Well, I know Alan and I have sent you a bunch of pictures, but all we need right now is another storm with Church Street and Parish Drive and the detour.
Yeah,
We're gonna have cars
it's going to be so
underwater.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will
Give us
say,
some.
I will say this, because it's a different type, it is a planning grant. This will be reimbursed as soon as invoices are paid. So we don't have to wait on anything. This is, if we pay an invoice, it gets reimbursed from the state.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Consider approval of Town of Benson Uniform Guys Procurement Policy.
All right, so this is another grant that we have gotten from the county. We were awarded $500,000 from the county for elevated storage tank. So this is the initial part. We did our AMP study. So the AMP study showed that, yes, we do need a water tower. This study is going to tell us, it's going to use the hydraulic model that we have, and it's going to tell us where it needs to go and how big it needs to be. So we are asking to contract with Withers Ravenel on this. Their estimated cost is $132. 132,000. Again, the grant's for 500. So, you know, once we get this done, maybe we can use some of the county money for the whatever's left over for construction.
Use this money for rivers, revenue.
We should be able to. It's a reimburse. So,
I mean,
yeah,
a
because
lot
of
grants that we've got does not take care of engineering.
right, but this is through the county, and this specifically called for engineering of a new elevated water storage tank. I mean, it was called in the grant.
Hadn't they already done a lot of this for the town of Benson?
They did the AMP study and the hydraulic model, yeah.
Yeah.
So the AMP study showed us that we needed a tank. Now we got to find out where it's going to go. When that tank goes in, we have a high, correct me if I'm wrong, a high pressure system coming in from Dunn. So we'll have to do some future modeling too. Like if you put a tank here, what is it going to do to your pipes that it's connected to? Because we have a high pressure system, so you don't want to put it online and then every pipe start busting. So it's going to do a lot of that engineering and planning of the tank itself.
That's when you start putting pressure reducing.
Right, pressure reducing valves.
This is,
Yep.
This is reimbursable by the county
Yes.
upon payment of engineering, not upon
Yes.
construction.
Correct.
No.
Yes.
No.
I just have to submit it to Chandra. Did I miss anything, Glenn? Okay. Awesome.
I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Consider approval of advisory board appointment. Charlie Harper.
You missed
Planning
one.
Board.
You missed E.
Huh?
E.
Back up one.
Back up one.
Okay. Consider approval of Town of Benson Uniform Guidance Procurement Policy.
So this is honestly nothing that we do differently on a day-to-day basis. We have always followed the state's procurement policy, and we've never had like a local policy other than how much purchase orders are. We have a recent grant, the RC2 grant that we've discussed. It's $49,999. It's going to go towards finishing up some things at the VS field house, the VS park, so like the dugouts and stuff. And they, of course, send a checklist over to you, and you go down the checklist, and I've always been able to say, we just do whatever the state does. But they actually want it in writing, and they want it approved by the board. So this is our procurement policy that we've been doing since I've been here. I mean, I'm sure they did it before I was even here. But this is just the town having it in an actual policy and voting to approve. And
Really nothing in there that isn't track right with the North Carolina General Statutes.
I just have to have something to turn in.
If they want a policy that says we'll follow the law, then see any problem with that. I should be doing that.
So if somebody bids the price on a job, then that's all the money they're gonna get. You're not gonna overspend anything.
Unless you have a change order, but I mean, change orders usually have to get approved, so, yeah. I mean, it's the same thing we've always done, yeah.
You gonna approve that?
Yes, I needed yes, absolutely.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, now we're on the advisory board. Charlie
Now,
Harper,
yep.
planning board.
And so we have a planning board appointment for Charlie Harper. Angie's not here, and I'm sorry, I don't have like how many seats we have available, but, I'm assuming this is an in-city.
He's been on the town.
He's ETJ because it's Tar Heel Road. So he has been on it. He's already been off 2 years according to Aaron. So he is up to be on it again. So he's already been on it, come off, and he can go back.
Somebody make a motion.
And they have one town vacancy left.
Motion to approve.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Consider approval of police off-duty pay agreement. Greg Percy.
Good evening again. In probably mid-December last year, I brought forward a proposal to Kim to discuss having our officers paid for the off-duty work that they do at the special events in town. As part of that continuing conversation, Kim and I met with Loretta in January to discuss the proposal. and we worked out a compromise from the original where, for starters, we had requested $45 an hour, but I reduced that to $30 an hour as a way of minimizing the impact as much as we could. And we also made it apply to select events and not, so not as many of the nonprofits would be affected by it. The proposal that is before you now is for Sundown in Downtown, for the Mule Days Parade, the Veterans Day Parade, and for Christmas on Main. And I assume
So
it's-
those four is the project.
Yes, sir. Yep, it's $30 an hour, so theoretically, Sundown would be staffed with 2 officers for $240 total. Mule Days Parade would be 4 officers at $30 per hour for $480. Veterans Day Parade would be no more than 10 officers at $30 per hour for 2 hours. If fully staffed, it would be $600. And for Christmas on Main, it would be no more than 10 officers for 4 hours. The total cost at full staffing level would be $1,200. And that
Full
would be-
staffing level, does that mean that's all officers that's brought in, that's not the ones that are working?
In this context, full staffing means up to 10. So that would be 10 officers that are there. Now, at last year's Christmas on Main, we had 13 officers and needed 18. So
Where?
at
Because
the
I
di-
had 3 on my corner.
at different intersections. And I was doing some pre-planning this week with the addition of the roundabout. That number's going to jump even more because we're going to have to block West Main Street even further down, to compensate for the new traffic circle and stuff. But they would be responsible for no more than 10 officers. The town would pick up the tab for the rest. But to answer your question, it would be people that get called in to work the event.
Okay, so if you need 6 officers and you've got 2 working, they're not part of you 6.
Correct. That would be the 4 officers that are.
But would you ever make them part of your 6? You're not coming up and, they're getting paid
No, they're not.
plus.
No, they're not going to get double paid. Sundown was 2 officers for $240.
Greg, how does this also work when we've got areas on 95 and they're shutting down a bridge and they ask for officers? That's off-duty officers paid by DOT?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's not any officers that we've got that should be working.
No, sir. No.
That's $75 an hour too.
I know, I worked it.
And to be honest, we can't even fill their needs right now. Our guys are just burnt out.
Is the chamber the only nonprofit that's affected by this?
The Veterans Organization.
And there's no more than 600.
I tell you what my opinion is, and then I'll hush, because I think we was about to say something else. I'm on the fence, and I'm on the fence. It's not because I don't want to compensate your officers. I'm on the fence because, and I'll tell you, last budget season, you might as well throw darts at me up here, because I do not believe that taxes that are collected by municipalities should be given out to nonprofits as donations anyway. And we do that every year. The chamber gets a donation of us every year of $3,500. And I feel individually, that's my belief, that if I want to give a nonprofit money, that's on my accord. That shouldn't be decided by a governing body that I don't have a choice whether or not to pay. But that being said, I also realize the benefit of having the Chamber of Commerce, because if they didn't do what they did, Benson would have 0 events per year. And when you say 0 events, and I just looked at rough numbers, you're looking at a little over $2,500 that we give them here. But Mule Day golf cart proceeds were $26,800. That's how much we made off of them putting on Mule Days for us. Now, I guess it was still a loss because we paid $45,000 in security. I agree with that. But the town benefits from that, and the community benefits from that, and the businesses benefit from that. And so I would say that I do not want to get, I mean, and then how do you choose which nonprofits you charge and which nonprofits you don't? If the Optimist wants to do something for the school for a parade, do we charge for the South Johnston parade when we shut it down for the South Johnston?
No.
Do we charge, I mean, and I don't want to get into that
But
business.
Now, keep in mind, the homecoming parades are like rolling stops. So they only, they let them go through and then they're not stopping, they're not blocking traffic for
But we
long
only
periods
do
of
that
time.
every other year. 1 year it goes to Four Oaks. Is Four Oaks
Correct.
charging for every one police officer when they do it in Four Oaks?
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Or are they going to decide to go to Four Oaks every year because they don't have to? You know, if we
Right.
were to start charging them, right?
But I
And
think,
so,
well, you wouldn't
um,
have to charge, right?
No.
Yeah, you wouldn't have
Right.
to charge for that because it's a rolling. They're
put that
literally,
in a contract for me.
I got you, I got you.
We've
discussed it.
And so,
Yeah,
I'm going
About
to tell you
The
that
Halloween fest that you have to block off the
that's a
street.
town event.
That's a what?
That's a town event.
Yeah, that's a town-sponsored event.
That's put on by
what
Parks
are
and
the
Rec.
town-sponsored events? Hallowfest.
Hallowfest is the town. You have a list.
Yeah.
National Night Out, but you don't have to block anything for that. That's the town. Community Day. Easter egg hunt is put on by Parks and Rec. The Halloween hunt,
The 5K race.
the 5K race at Veterans Day, that's put on by the town, although the rest of it is done by veterans helping veterans.
Well, what is, if the 5K run is put on by the town, what are we doing charging, for Veterans Day?
Because the
parade is a separate event from the 5K race.
Yeah.
What do we charge
you
Fate
block
and Goat
off
for
the
being the
streets for
place
the
to
5K
end
race.
up the 5K?
I can't.
Well,
I'm sorry, Will.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Will, I apologize.
I was just saying that we block off the streets all the way out to Lake Shore for the 5K race.
Correct.
And then it's over. Y'all come back and block off streets again for the,
For the Veterans Day parade?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. It's a totally different route.
I'm just gonna say this, and I'll leave it up to the board. I would at least request that if we don't do anything else, I would deny it today, and I may make that motion in a minute. Or I would ask that we table it until after we have budget discussions. Because if we think $2,520 is gonna make this police department, we're not fixing a problem with this. That's just the way I feel about it.
So the spots where you're having to block off is the town sponsored, town's putting it on.
Yes.
Do they still get overtime pay, or is it comp?
It's comp time. And that's the problem that I'm running into.
That's what we
We
need
are-
to change.
We are 5 positions short right now.
Yeah.
Now, I've got 3 in the process of hiring. And even if they come on board, say April or whatever, we're still going to, well, I have 2 vacancies that are frozen.
Okay.
All right,
Maybe I
so,
misread that report
we
today.
went through the second half of last year down officers, and we're gonna go through 2024 down officers. If I don't do something to incentivize my officers to come in and work these special events, they're not coming.
What obligation does the town have to secure a private nonprofit event? I mean, theoretically, she needed security, could she not go hire some private, or if anybody could go hire private security? If I wanted to have an office party and I asked you to block off Railroad Road, could I not hire a private security officer? I don't know what it would cost me.
They could block Railroad Street,
Right.
but they can't block a DOT road.
Right, well,
Yeah, that's
I
my
can with
concern.
permission, I've done it before, I can by getting permission. And so, I mean, I'm just asking,
My concern is with closing the streets, if you don't have,
You'd have to
law
have-
enforcement officers doing it.
Who's-
But could you contract with
who's got
law
the circle
enforcement?
closed right now?
DOT.
Where's the law enforcement officers?
Well,
That's
They
their,
close-
that's
it's
their
their
road.
closure,
Yeah,
it's
they
set
close,
up by
they close the
barricades.
street with fencing, so,
Yeah.
I
We
mean,
do
like
too.
temporary closures. I don't know that you could close
They
Market
know
Street
general
or
statutes
50
say
Highway
that.
or Main Street or something with private security, as you say it. It's just with your guys out there with staff shirts that say, you can't drive on this street. I think that's awkward, but could you contract as a private entity? Your first question was, what responsibility does the town have?
Right.
I don't know if the town has any responsibility to pay for uniformed officers employed by the town and paid for by the town to police private events whatsoever.
So this.
Responsibility now, I'm talking about what is our responsibility to do it.
This right here, what, proposing, but it doesn't fix anything for town sponsored events.
No, it doesn't incorporate any of the town-sponsored events. We're still gonna be on the hook for those.
Yeah, but I'm talking about as far as like, yeah, we'll be on the hook, but will it go to where we're not competent no more, we're overtime?
That's a budget discussion.
That's a
Yeah,
budget
that's-
discussion.
Can you bring us, I'd hate, not, when you can, like the numbers, how much to go away from comp to overtime?
Because comp time's earned at time and a half, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
So, I mean, technically, they're getting the same amount of time off as that they would be getting in pay. We're just not paying them.
The
right?
problem is
The
they
problem
can't
is
take
they
it
can't
off,
They can't take it off.
That's right.
so they're working for free.
Yeah.
So there, I guess, is the $2,520 on this sheet comparative to what we would pay in overtime?
Actually, the personnel plan that was approved well, I don't think it was approved, but the personnel plan that was put in place last year, one of their recommendations was that any off-duty work should be at time and a half. Okay, our base salary is $45,612, which equates to roughly $31 and some change as overtime. I'm only asking for 30.
Okay.
Make a motion again, because maybe we might need to table this until the next meeting.
Well, okay, so we've been asked to get, how much would go from comp to OT.
Right.
What other questions are there that we can bring back to you after we, I know we're gonna have budget discussions, we're gonna talk about the budget.
Well,
but-
I want to see the numbers that Dean asked for, because I like numbers, but I mean, if we were to pay versus contract out to a nonprofit, would that satisfy your officers? And they're paying the police department this, or are they paying the officers?
They're paying the officers.
The
directly.
officers, it would not run through the town. They would pay them, they would write them a check.
So if they're brought in and wrote a check for the nonprofit, and they're on the clock for a nonprofit, and something in the town happens, and you need to call them back into duty, how do you do that?
Well, I mean, we would obviously take precedence, but we would try to adjust as best we could to cover both.
I got one more question. As far as like the numbers where I talked about the overtime and the comp time, do you feel like that you would retain officers because they got a chance to make overtime than going to somewhere else?
The two that left the end of December, they were burnt out because they went through the majority of 2023 having to cover extra shifts, and then on top of that, covering Hallowfest, covering Veterans Day, covering the Christmas parade. They can go to Clayton, they can go to Sheriff's Department and not have to do that stuff.
They don't work the Halloween thing in Clayton, in the downtown center in Clayton,
And they
I
don't do the
couldn't tell you,
Christmas
but-
parade?
and they don't do
I
the
know
Clayton
they do in
Christmas parade?
Smithfield.
I can't answer for Clayton, I don't know.
That was their reason.
I got a question.
I think the reason is their money. I think-
That's what I'm
I
Well,
think
saying.
they got
I'm
money
sure
in their
that
pocket.
plays a part.
Sure that,
Because they're making more money, and everybody knows everything's going up, but they're working more for the same amount. You see what I'm saying? That's
You
what
say
I'm asking.
45,000 a year equated into $32 an hour.
What
You
figure's
just said
that?
a minute ago.
their salary, remember, they're 12-hour shifts, not 8.
45,612 equals to an overtime rate of $31 and some change.
An overtime rate.
Overtime rate.
Yeah, time and a half.
Oh, yeah, okay, I got you.
Overtime rate.
$31.32.
Greg, I know we've done this too before, but I'm going to make the motion that we table this until we have our board retreat, and let's look at your budget, and then we can talk about how we compensate to be able to keep you better officers. That's
Okay.
my motion on the table.
2 or 3 weeks away.
That's March 1st.
No,
No.
March the
following week.
following week, March 8th. Sorry.
3 weeks away.
There's a motion on the table to delay it for the,
To the staff meeting the Saturday of March the 9th, when we look at the budget.
Yeah. Loretta texted and asked if she could speak. Do you still want to speak? If they're tabling it, you're good.
Yeah, I was just gonna explain
Oh, okay.
And that, because that's what the sheriff's department charges, $30 an hour. That's what we pay the sheriff's department for Mule Days Parade, the chamber cart, the carnival and everything.
How many officers do you pay for the Mule Day Parade from the sheriff's department?
Probably, how many are over there on us? They give us like 3 at no charge, and then we pay the balance of the deputies for the Mule Days Parade.
And we provide 4, according to this, right?
We would be paid or reimbursed for 4, yeah.
Okay.
See, when
We had-
Greg originally came up with, excuse
Go
me,
ahead.
came up with this, when I looked at the Christmas on Main charges, there would be no way to see that event, we just do it for the town.
Do that.
And there was no way that,
Come up here.
there was no way that we could do that
Please.
event. I was gonna have to cancel
Because
it.
you got a motion on the floor.
I know.
Because there was no way, so
But she
we
won't
sat
do this.
down and compromised.
What if, and you know, because you're in the chambers, does the chamber in Clayton put on the Christmas parade, or does the town put on the Christmas parade in Clayton?
The town puts on the Christmas parade, the chamber does
Does
not.
the town put on the downtown events, or does the chamber put on the downtown concerts?
The town does that.
Okay.
And in Dunn, the tourism authority does their concerts and all their events, the tourism authority.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Loretta.
You heard the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We'll take it up at the retreat.
One other thing, Greg, let me ask you something. Is there town hiring policies the same as yours? Now, I have had 2 of your officers to tell me that that the Benson Police Department has a no hire back policy. Don't care how good you were, and that's not right. I went and asked, and they said, no, the town of Benson does not have that policy. It's not in writing. Do you have that policy with officers that have left and wanted to come back?
No, me personally, no.
And we've actually rehired
Yeah.
officers that have
Well,
left. We've had
I
them
knew
come back.
that.
Yeah.
But here was 2 officers in the last 2 months. One of them's gone now to Clayton, and that's exactly what, well, I couldn't come back if I wanted to because the town has a policy, no hire. I said, I can't believe that.
I will say this, and if you don't mind, I'll speak for you. There is no hire, there is not a no hire policy. There is a determination of probably in-house that says, would we hire them back based off of their work history? That's what we look at, is their work
Eligibility
history,
for
their
rehire.
eligibility for rehire. But there is no policy that states we do not rehire, because we absolutely have rehired in the past.
You may want to express that to the officers you have, that there is no policy out
Right.
there like that the town came up with.
Okay.
Yeah, all right, appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
All right. Thank you, Chief.
All right. Consider approval resolution 250, 2024. Ike.
All right, mindful of the hour, be as brief as I can. This is about leasing the 9 remaining corral posts on top of the existing water tower to AT&T. All right, and the reason why you're looking in your packet at an approval that, if you recall, the last time we sold real estate, this looks very similar to those resolutions, is because North Carolina General Statute 272 states that if it's a lease longer than 10 years, and you have to include all for periods of extension and renewal, then you have to treat that as a sale of real property. There's an exception actually for wireless communications facilities, but that caps at 25. This potential lease that is not being asked to be approved tonight, you don't have the lease in front of you, that will come back in March, but this potential lease with all periods of extension and renewal will be 35 years. So by state statute, we have to treat that as a sale of real property. That's a little awkward procedure because it's not a sale, it's a lease. The general statute that we are going to then proceed under is 269, 168, 269, which is the negotiated offer advertisement and upset bid procedure. And we've done that before with the sale of real property. Again, it's a little awkward to do it with a lease, but it's not impossible, and ultimately that's what the state statute requires. So the first step is what's before you tonight. That's a resolution, and it's in, I'm looking on the digital copy here, but it's the document that says resolution forms and lease for lease of Corral Post AT&T 24. There's a resolution number 250/2024 authorizing the long-term lease and advertisement of an offer to lease real property. This is a resolution by the board saying we've received an offer, which you've got in your packet as well, to lease property belonging to us. We're going to treat that as a sale because the statute requires it. We're going to run a notice in the paper, which is required by the statute. That's the second page in that attachment. Angie will run that notice later this week. Then that has to lay open for 10 days. I don't think anyone will outbid that, but I guess conceivably they could. That would create even greater problem. I don't really want to speak it out into existence, but assuming no one does, that 10-day upset period runs, then you can vote to accept that lease contract. If you look in the resolution, the final approval of it is contingent on negotiating a mutually agreeable lease agreement. I have drafted a lease agreement based on the existing lease with Verizon, and I've sent that to AT&T. So the ball's kind of in their court now to review that and get us whatever proposed changes. When we come back on the first meeting in March, assuming again there's no upset bid, and I very much doubt there will be, then what I'll be presenting you is the full contents of that lease. You do have some information here with some meat on the bone, which is the plans that will be attached to it. That's the longer document, NSB Colo construction drawings. So you have that. Those would be attached to the lease. That goes through an engineer's level of detail of exactly what they're proposing to construct and where and all of that. But tonight, what I'm asking you to approve to satisfy that requirement of the statute is a resolution to propose to accept that, instruct the town staff, especially the clerk, to run that notice, and then we'll come back in March and seek to approve that lease, assuming that we have a mutually agreeable document that I can present to you for your consideration back from AT&T at that time. One thing to note too, and it's not spelled out with specificity in there, but it is sort of written in there. Statute requires a 5% bid deposit. It's another awkward thing to apply with a lease, right? I've done a lot of research on this here in the last few weeks and months. There's no real good guidance, even from School of Government or case law or anything I can find, on exactly what we should base that on. But I would mention to you in terms of how we determine the payment of that 5% bid deposit is, number one, I've told AT&T's representatives that in satisfaction of that, we'd ask that they go ahead and pay the first month's rent. If we don't end up executing the lease, of course, we would refund that back to them, but they go ahead and pay that first month's rent, which wouldn't start until the commencement date, which is when the tower's back in service and all that. Also, they're paying approximately $200,000, have paid, apparently, in upfit and modifications to the tower since it's been offline.
I think it's prior to, but yeah.
And yeah, so without, frankly, any guarantee of anything.
We just learned that having the conversation with them.
Right.
We had, because obviously that's a contractor is doing that. So I mean, he's had conversations with AT&T as well. So
Frankly, that part of the
that
conversation
shocked
we had
me.
with him
Yeah.
was a little bit like, I don't know, what meetings and all of y'all doing outside about our tank and tower regarding our stuff? I mean, you know, you do know you have to come through us if you actually want to put anything on it. So, but anyway, I think that shows good faith too. So,
Yeah.
that's all. More substance of that will come.
What's it gonna cost us?
It's not going to cost
Well,
us
you think
anything.
you'll make
We're going to
money.
make money. We
Yeah.
make.
Are we
budget
gonna make money if
$30,000.
they pull? If they,
This isn't going to cost you anything other than what the paper
What the
charges
paper's gonna
Angie
cost.
to run.
Now go back to what you said, because I thought I heard you say they've already paid.
That's
what
They
it said.
pay for some upfit to, yeah,
To the contractor that's doing to the work out there.
yeah, for the corrals. I know.
Well, the offer letter says they'll pay up to 200,000. Are we confirming that there's not gonna be any more upfit above the 200,000
We're not
level?
paying
We're
for
not
anything.
paying for any of
And
it.
That's not what the
in-
offer letter says.
Well, they're paying up to, that's what the offer letter says.
AT&T
they'll
hereby
pay up
offers to pay up to $200,000 for the tank structural modifications required to support the carriers on the water tank. That's what it says
We're
in
not
the
paying
offer.
for anything, and they understand
Okay,
that.
okay.
right?
I just wanna
Again,
make sure if it goes over
yeah,
that
no,
200,000,
if
that
it
the
goes
town
over
don't
and
get
they
the.
don't wanna lease it, then we'd say, sorry, it couldn't work out, well, they'd find another, I don't know, whatever you spent at this point, but we didn't tell
They'll
you
have
to
to
do
do it
that.
for.
Okay.
But we'll
Okay.
go lease it to, I don't know, US Cellular,
I
whoever's
just
left.
got a real problem with that.
Yeah, I don't have a
Too
problem with it,
I
I'm very
mean,
strange.
well, I mean, it kind of bothers me that, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe
Because-
we-
because
Maybe we need to have a
That's
conversation
kind
with
of-
our contractor.
Verizon
Yeah,
has
I
first
just-
right of refusal, so I mean, Verizon could absolutely come back and say,
No, we
well,
noticed that.
oh, but we did notice them, but
And
I'm
I-
saying they
and I
had
have a
it. though.
side, yeah, well, at that point, I don't know
Yeah.
where these meetings were happening between the contractor and AT&T, but I don't know at such point they agreed to pay this money and for what, for these upfits. We didn't notice Verizon of the possibility of this and our intent to potentially proceed with leasing to the third party, which would trigger their right of first refusal until September of last year. So they had already been.
Well, now, when we first did this, I think we discussed this as far as we were the only people that could lease.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
Okay.
your tank, that's your tower.
But
So what are they doing?
They're fixing the corrals.
What is the contractor doing? Talking to another
He's doing what
leasee?
he's doing, no, there's no leasee, he's just doing what AT&T's paying him to do.
Evidently.
yeah, but we're paying
mean,
him to
I-
update that.
I'll make an
paying
analogy.
him to do
It
the
would be
tank,
like if
not
I
the
had not
corral.
leased you my
I
commercial
thought that part of
building
the
yet,
agreement was
but
that.
you already hired a general
But then the
contractor, you
removal
were over
would
there
come back
spending
up, not
money,
the updating.
and I hadn't even
Not the
leased it to you
update,
yet.
the removal, well,
And then I
Some of
said,
that
well,
corral stuff was out,
that's kind of what it's like.
and it won't up to par, and they were gonna fix it.
Well, if this don't work out, we
Yeah,
just
but
got $200,000 free work to our tank. what it
Well,
sounds
There's
like.
no obligation, and even in this resolution, if you read in there, you reserve the right to reject any bids at any point in time. This is not done with any finality until we bring this back. Again, that's anticipated first meeting in March for your approval with finality of the final lease and all the terms set forth therein and the actual
Okay, what do you
document.
need?
So I need a motion to approve.
I'll
the
make that
resolution.
motion that we approve.
Let me ask a question first. They're paying 380909.
Right, perfect.
Verizon paid more than that.
no, Verizon has more corrals. So they're paying the exact same,
They're
right?
supposed- yeah,
They're supposed to be paying the
They're
per
paying
corral.
they're paying the exact same thing, per corral, per year, right?
Yeah, but they both have the same corrals. They got 9, don't they?
I think Verizon has more.
Huh?
I think Verizon has more corrals.
It's $5,078.78 per post per year, so it's $45,709.02 per year with 2% annual increases, same as the Verizon contract. There's actually a statute about that. We have to lease telecommunications facilities on competitively neutral terms. So even if AT&T wanted to pay us $5,000 or $8,000 per corral, per post. The corral is the actual crown-looking thing. The posts are the things that have the antennas. Per post per year, we couldn't accept it. That would be a violation of the statute. So we have to give them the exact same terms.
Unless we went up on the.
They're gonna pay the exact same thing Verizon's paying. They just got a longer lease.
I'll entertain a motion.
Will made one.
You already got it.
That's been so long ago.
I'm
All
not
in
doing
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
All right, one more thing for me, right? I'll be real brief. We've already talked about this. This is Jacob Parenti's renewal contract for inspections. 6-month term, $60 an hour. Again, this is all kind of came up organically early in the meeting. And then a provision in this contract that if at the end of 6 months there was not a mutually agreed upon modification or termination, that the agreement would just continue from month to month until either party terminated it. Otherwise, it's the exact same contract we had with them already.
You let your computer run away on this one.
It's the the same contract you already.
Any questions, anybody?
No, sir.
I know you all love it. I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion, we approve.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no.
No, we don't have a choice.
Town manager's report.
Okay. In the words of Ike, I'm going to make this brief. You have my the meetings I attended in January. If you have any questions, let me know. You have the Wooten Company's summary as well. I do want to make note of a couple things. Tomorrow at 9 o'clock, Benton Card Company is being featured on the History Channel. They made it to American Pickers. If you hadn't seen that, that's awesome for them. Tune in. Friday, February 16th, the museum will be closed to work on interviews for Black History Month celebration. So they're going to be using that to do all their videos and stuff. Alan talked about the Matrix meeting earlier tonight. I did go to Princeton's last week, and honestly, there was a lot of people in the room that when they got there were really mad, and when they left, they understood it, and they were like, okay, this is not so bad. I've actually had a couple follow-up conversations, because obviously that's my community, and I knew some of the people that were there. I highly suggest y'all attend if you have any other questions. February 17th at Triple S at 10, February 21st at South Johnston at 6. We got the board agenda. I had the board agenda on there, but y'all volunteered, so I'll get with y'all to get a date together for next week or maybe the end of this week. One question that has been asked of me since y'all agreed on the planning board to come on that Friday night, can the steering committee come?
Sure.
We have a party.
Okay. All right. So we'll get in touch with all of them.
Hold it, who's cooking? Alan?
I'm going to see if I can get Alan to cook, maybe.
Gonna cost you.
All right, so that is all I have unless you guys have anything for me, but that's it.
All right.
Really brief, it's getting late. Y'all have already said it, so I won't just hop on and try to look like some Johnny-come-lately to say the same thing over again. I'm really going to miss Erin. Erin was really good at her job. I pray that whoever, I work a lot with the plan director. I work with Preston for her. Worked really well with Erin. Wish you all the best. Just personally, I'm really going to miss her. If you know of anybody that can, fill your shoes or try to, I hope send them to us because that's a key role and everybody knows that. So best of luck to you and happy Valentine's Day.
Dr. March?
All I want to say is that I hate to see Aaron go too. I know we've had disagreements over the time, but still I respect you. I think you do a great job.
Mirror what he says. I hate to see you go, but I wish you the best of luck for you and your family. So, good luck.
Maxine?
Well, I've already told her my feelings, so I'm good.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to miss her. And a couple of other things. A roundabout action started today, and DOT made it perfectly clear that they own 50 Highway and 301. That's their highway, and they could do this. And I still say that the board is getting blamed for it. But in saying that, Church Street and Parish Drive is not DOT, it's the town of Benson's. And I saw about 1, 2 o'clock today, 3 transfer trucks coming in, or 2 dump trucks pulling equipment. And in saying that, I think we need to video our roads right now. And after this is all over with, see if we can get some help in paving them, because these big trucks are not, our little streets are not designed for the turning and everything this detour is going to bring in. I mean, you've got to detour them somewhere, but Parish Drive and Church Street is where they're coming from, and we're going to have low boys, we're going to have everything else on those roads, and we get very little help in paving them when it comes time. And these trucks, 2 months from now, when all of this is over and the roads are open back up, I think we're gonna have a lot of damage that we need to have proof. Look, this is what they look like. Can we get some help from y'all to resurface them? Something else, the Dunn and
Parish.
and Main Street, Dunn Street was repainted last week, and it's made a world of difference. I've sat out there and watched people stop where they're supposed to before they turn onto Main Street, and big trucks and anybody else coming in, they've got enough room that if they stop where the big white line you couldn't see is, it's working out for them. I want to commend, I think, the police department on the new four-way stop, because I've watched it. I've come real close in pulling it myself right there at Parish Drive and Dunn Street. I know they have pulled several and told them, look, here's a warning, and it's working. It may be a big cluster next week this time, but it's working out. And I am glad our police department is given a little leeway, because that has been a straight street forever. And people coming off Harnett Street from the apartments, if they're running 55 miles an hour and shoot through that, I understand, give them a ticket. They shouldn't be running 55 in a 25 anyway. But the signs are up. I think it's working. If it doesn't, we'll pull some signs up and start back where we were.
I do want to make one comment about the roundabout that I forgot to mention. Yes, it is up. I've only gotten one complaint so far, knock on wood. But we did email DOT today, and we did ask them for a leading green stoplight at Church and Wall and Parish and Wall. So Church and Wall for eastbound traffic and Parish and Wall for westbound traffic, because Chief Percy saw that it's taken a long time for people to actually be able to turn. And so we have asked for that. I'll let y'all know what DOT says in regards to that. But so if y'all hear any other complaints, just let me know. I've got the guy that's in charge of the project right here. I can email him and continue sending. I also had a citizen request that we put, or that DOT puts, a four-way stop at Lincoln and Main. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Well, I've seen requests
Might
for
be the only way
four-way
to get
stops down West Parish, East and West Church Street.
Oh, on Facebook?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
And I got one request. Can we, the roundabout, can we get with DOT and see if we can get some naming rights?
Sure.
I would love to name it the Will Chandler Roundabout.
Put my damn
No fighting.
I hope it
Will you?
works. I swear, I hope the thing works when it gets through. I'm just looking at the effects that it's having. I saw those 3 trucks come, and one of them turned, and it's not like a regular car on these little streets.
Oh, I know.
So,
I don't think on my truck can make a roundabout. I don't think I can turn that truck around in that space with my truck.
well,
I have to make a right turn, go,
look,
turn back.
you go out there at night when they first get it,
Y'all
and
gonna
I
make me
want you
forget
to
my
just
things.
draw some.
I got 4 things to cover real quick. I mean real quick. First off, it was in the departmental reports, but I want to make sure it's done publicly. And that is Tyler Douglas and Matt worked and got us a $49,000 something grant for dugout covers and stuff for the ball field.
Yes, they did.
And so I would just like to say thank you to both of them, and I can't wait to see you put it to use. Hang on, we talked too much. I forgot the other ones. Number 2 was railroad. We had discussed, or I had brought up a few months ago about neighboring towns being able to reach out to CXX to get a policy with the town not allowing them to blow the horns when they fly through town, downtown. We've got the paperwork. Kim researched it, got the paperwork. We can fill out the paperwork, but it is intensive. And so when we talked today, I wanted to see what the book, because it's going to take some town work to get that done. Is this something the board wants to pursue or not?
I thought it was dealing with the crossing arms
having the double ones that they
No, what
wouldn't.
he's asking for is we do
And
a
they
no
have that
whistle
in
through
Forks,
town.
and I've seen some people just about lose their life behind that.
But I thought that was one thing that if they put in like the double
They do put
arms,
the double
they
ones
wouldn't
up
blow
there,
the
but
horn.
they don't.
And I
Right.
thought that's what they were doing.
But we
in
have to
Nashville.
request it.
Oh.
Well, we have to request a no.
We're set up, we just gotta do the paperwork, but I just
Yeah.
wanna see what this board's thought was on it before I ask her to do work on
I
it.
saw on WRL, they had somebody in Raleigh doing the same thing, and they said the city of Raleigh was gonna cost them $2 million to acquire. So that's,
Well, the Four Oaks did it and they ain't spending a dime,
Mm-mm.
cause that's who I got the paperwork from.
Now,
And they got a mess of it.
So, but,
And I briefly looked at it, I just know it's a lot, so before I spend all that time on it, or maybe, a member of the staff spends a lot of time on it, I wanna make sure we don't do the work and then it gets denied
by the board.
by the board.
Well,
Well,
let's table
good.
that and talk about it later too, 'cause I'm
Okay,
not good
all right.
with that.
Okay.
good luck with it. I was in a DOT meeting for 2 hours last Tuesday, and DOT made it clear that they're in charge and you're not gonna change them.
That's DOT.
And we have dealt, I'm telling you, we have dealt with CSX before and the railroad, and they're even tougher than
It's
DOT.
a process, it's just filling out paperwork.
Well,
All right, number three.
better know somebody.
Number three was Aaron. I didn't get a chance to say it, but I just want to reciprocate what everybody else has said, Aaron. I greatly enjoy working with you, and I'm going to miss you. And Garner is very lucky to have you. I wish you the best moving forward. Number four, and lastly, is just for me, and y'all do what you want, but the next meeting is on February the 22nd. They are having a dinner for Larry Strickland, and I feel like he has done a lot for us over the past couple of years, so I will not be here. I mentioned it to Kim, and she said maybe I ought to bring it up to y'all to see if y'all are going to that dinner. Do we need to change that or either postpone that meeting
And
till March?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything pressing that we need to talk about for the second meeting. So remember, your second meetings are optional. You can cancel them. We put them on the calendar, so we didn't have to notice them if we had them. So if most of y'all are going to be there, I'd rather go ahead and let Mike Dart know now that meeting is not going to happen.
Let him know now that it's not gonna happen.
I make a motion that we cancel the meeting on the 22nd.
Okay.
Thanks for everybody
Hey,
moving the meeting along
Meeting,
tonight.
there's a motion on the floor.
I made a motion to cancel the meeting on the 22nd.
Okay.
Sir.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Aaron, thanks for all you do, and thanks for your patience and your understanding, and good luck. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I made that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Thank you. I was expecting to stay here till about 12.
I thought we did pretty good.
Yeah, really
We did
good.
real good.
Oh.